Hey, do you want to hear a joke, Ringer?
No.
Do you want to hear a joke?
No.
What's the penguin's favourite dog?
I don't care.
Bichon Frise!
Oh dear. It's been a long day. You've seen Underwater 1, carp, method and hybrid feeder. Come on.
Oh, you're right behind! Come on, Steve! We're going to do another one?
Yeah.
Somewhere different? I think we've got loads of venues to explore and lots of different types of fish.
Underwater 2, Ferry Meadows, bream, again on the feeder.
That's conclusive, surely.
That's another example of something we won't be showing the public.
Ringer's going to be even better than he's ever been, so God help us all.
I actually feel I am. One question we kept getting asked is, can we do something on the pole? Can we do something with carp and F1s? Well, we've brought you now to Western Pools. We're on the clay pit. We've got the best in the business on the box in Andy Bennett. He's going to be targeting carp and F1s, and you're going to see exactly what's happening underwater. If we can't learn in this situation, we're never going to learn.
Without that camera, I wouldn't think there's a fish there.
Don't strike.
Strike?
No. Oh, he's trying to eat your pellet on the drop. I'll sort this.
When cameras aren't on, mate, I'm a different animal, you know what I mean?
Spanish Armada's on its way.
Don't get muscles like this without catching plenty of F1s.
When you watch this back, you'll pack up fishing. It's February, and with water clarity our #1 priority for filming underwater, we have found our way to Western Pools Fisheries near Oswestry. The renowned clay pit is our location for the next adventure, a deep water with shallow margins and a big head of F1s and carp. Most importantly though, it's about as clear as commercials get. We've got 2 cameras this time, both located in different areas of the swim. One is in a depth of 6 foot in open water, about 5 metres out, and the other down the left-hand margin with a depth of about 4 foot. Underwater 3 is something I'm really excited about. We've done feeder for carp, we've done feeder for bream, now's the chance to do pole. I've got loads of ideas about what I think's going to happen. Are the carp still going to get away with it? Are the F1s going to be as cute as I think they could be?
I get a chance this time, and it's the style of fishing that I love doing, like F1 and carp fishing. I think it's a very popular tactic, and it's going to open our eyes to what we're actually going to see underwater.
Having fished against Andy numerous times in the past, I know he's got an amazing tactical brain, so I'm looking forward to sort of bouncing ideas off each other. I know some things we agree on, some things we don't. Also be interesting to see if things underwater are what Andy thinks they are, because he won't always have the benefit of the screen, so he might be telling me something, and something completely different might be happening.
Having Steve sat with me, there's no better man. His brain is unbelievable, and even though he don't do loads of this style of fishing, just his general thought of fishing, fish feed very similar, you know, and his tactical awareness is going to be brilliant. So for me, he's a perfect person to have sat behind me, analysing the results as they come in. With the cameras in position, it was now time to get a better idea of what we're going to be fishing over.
Plumbing up is a massive part of pole fishing in particular. I need to know what I'm fishing on, but also I need to know my hook bait's on the bottom. So it's going to be really interesting to see, A, does the plummet sit as I think it does, and B, are we fishing on what I think we're fishing on?
Plumbing up to me is one of the biggest parts of fishing. You need to make sure that you're fishing on a nice flat bottom, or as flat as it can possibly be. If it's not flat, then you need to take sort of an average depth. The main thing for me is I would rather be over depth by an inch, inch and a half, rather than be just half an inch off the bottom. So I'm trying to find a nice flat spot where the fish can feed confidently, and try and avoid any sort of big structures in my pegs, such as bricks, rocks, etc. When I plumb up here now, obviously you can see what's going on.
Plummet, yeah.
My float, that there is the perfect starting depth on pellets. Body of my float out the water. If I go a little bit to the right, I'm still on the bottom. A little bit more, probably going out of shot.
Yeah, you're just going out of shot now.
Yeah, so this is coming back towards the spot. And
that's pretty much, for me watching the screens, that's a great spot where you are now, anywhere in that little area. Just going off the back of the screen now.
Now if I come closer to
perfect.
myself,
There is perfect.
Yeah, so I feel like it jumps up a little bit there. It feels like the whole of the bottom here feels a little bit rocky.
Yes.
If I go further out by 6 inch, I'm going to be out of shot, but basically I'm an inch off the bottom. So what I'd be doing here personally is looking for an average. When I come back and hold that joint, I'd be happy to line up with that marker. I've got an inch of float on the bottom, and I can basically go an inch or two that way and an inch or two this way. When I come closer, I'm 2 inch over depth rather than an inch over depth. But what that allows me to do is if I'm an inch further out, I'm still on the bottom.
So how your float's sitting there with the water, is that how you'd be happy?
Yeah, that to me would be perfect.
Because some people would say, oh, I like to fish dead depth, so they'd probably be plumbing up dead up, like, so it's just literally what they're going to fish with is in the bristles showing.
With all my fishing, I always like to use the smallest plummet I can get away with. So the 10 gram for me, I feel it gives me a nice true reading. The way I plumb is basically I tap it on the bottom and I just sort of search that little area. Don't sort of just leave it there, pick it up, leave it there. I just sort of tap around my peg, and I think that gives me a true reading of how much line I'm going to have on the bottom. Yeah, it's not like most stand-up commercials. When you're plumbing in the deeper water, I always find it's full of silt, whereas this feels very rocky. Like,
yeah, it looks like swan mussels on the screen.
Right, well, if I come here, can you see me plummet there?
Perfectly.
That feels like I'm on summit
That's
by about
quite
an
flat,
inch.
that's quite a nice flat area.
See, that feels like it comes up by an inch.
Yeah,
so
it probably does, because you come in closer in.
Yeah,
But if you drop like now, you're dropping down slightly into a little crevice.
right, well that seems perfect for me. I'd be 100% happy putting my rig.
Yeah, now you're like gone behind a swan mussel.
Is there a swan mussel there? Well, that's probably what I can feel.
You're just behind one there, now you are. Now you're coming inside where there's a nice little flat spot there.
The first thing that blew my mind was the bottom looked like the moon. I always imagined it was going to be nice and flat, maybe a bit of gravel, bit of silt, but flat. It was like swan mussels all over, like little craters, little crevices, loads of places for your bait to fall. And what sort of worried me more than anything was when Andy was plumbing up, the float wasn't really showing what I was seeing on the screen. So it's made me think a lot since, as in, what am I fishing on? I need to be a little bit more careful, a bit more precise with my plummet, just to make sure there isn't all those little crevices, because those crevices can be a real nightmare.
It was a little bit stony, a little bit rocky, but I was happy with it. You know, I'd have been totally happy fishing there. I felt like the average didn't change by much more than, say, an inch or two overall over, say, a foot square area. Looking back now, though, I can see all the mussels on the bottom and all the bits of rubbish and stuff like that. I'd probably never choose to fish there, but this is one of them venues where you've not really got any option. Everywhere you go on that shelf, there's a lot of mussels and it's basically a lot of rubbish on the bottom. It's just a congregation of years and build-up of moss and silt and just bits of rubbish everywhere. So looking back, I probably wouldn't have, you know, I weren't happy looking at the screen, but that's what you're faced with, and obviously you do catch fish there. I think the biggest thing is try and avoid any big jump ups and big shelves, because sometimes you can have a brick in your peg and it just stops the fish coming in your peg. It's got to either swim over the brick or your bait could be tucked behind the brick and the fish can't see it. So finding a nice spot, a foot square area where the fish can come in from every angle, I think that's going to make the fish easier to catch. Do you think we should try a different size plummet? Do you think it'll make any
What size
difference?
plummet you got on there?
So I've got a 10 on, that's what I always personally use.
I'd be interested to see if you feel. I always use the bigger size. Here it comes. It does sit a lot nicer, that plummet, with a bigger surface area.
Right.
You know, the smaller plummet.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was tipping over, whereas it's always laying like base down nice because it's got a bigger surface area.
Yeah.
Are you getting any difference in?
Yeah, it feels like here, obviously it feels a little bit flatter.
Yeah, you're slightly too close to camera now.
Right.
That's
where I want to fish there.
Yeah.
Now it's showing me that I'm a little bit more over depth, but if I go a little bit further forward, it shows like there's a 2 or 3 inch drop off, whereas on the other plummet, I weren't getting that sort of reading. This is almost like too direct to the spot.
I've always preferred a bigger plummet on the basis, I think it gives me more feel. So when I'm sort of dropping it down, you get that dunk. If you think you're on a hard bottom, it can plug if you're on a soft bottom. And I think what underwater showed was the bigger plummet fell into those crevices more. So it would have given me a better picture that the bottom wasn't actually as flat as it appeared with the light plummet. That said, obviously if it is silty, I totally get Andy's point. Light plummet sits on top of the silt, so you're going to get a more accurate reading that way. So having spoken to Andy, watched what happened, sometimes now if I thought the bottom was soft, I'd be tempted to plummet with a light and a heavy plummet. But if that bottom's hard, for me that heavy plummet is so much more accurate.
What was interesting is the heavier plummet, you could actually feel a lot more. So for example, I was plumbing up on a little swan mussel and it was basically like a 2 inch variation from the bottom, and I could feel that. With the 10 gram, because the surface area is so small, it's sort of rolling off and I couldn't really feel it. So the 10 gram actually made it feel like it was a perfect little foot square area. When I started putting this heavier plummet on, I could start to feel the deviations. Let's have a little look at the tackle we're going to use for today then. Starting off with the first rig. Elastic wise, I want an elastic that I can catch fish from 1 to 10 pounds. So for me, White Hydro is perfect for that. It's got cushion if I'm catching pound fish, but also if I use my puller kit as well, I can land fish easily to 10 pound. Connection wise, I've gone for one of our Polelastic connection beads, and all I've done is took the Dacron off, reversed it and tied a little knot in my elastic, and all that I do then is loop my line over it in a little lasso. That buffers up behind the elastic and I can just pull the bead back onto it. Brilliant for shallow fishing in the summer, but I use it for all my deck fishing as well. Coming down, I've got 017 N gauge main line, and I've got a little number 9 cube there as a back shot. Be interested to see whether this back shot, when it's sunk under the water, whether it just helps stabilise the actual rig itself. I do believe if you don't have a back shot, your float just drifts a little bit more, so it'd be actually good to see whether underwater it keeps it that little bit more stable. Talking about stability, the float pattern I've gone for is 0.5 of a gram bobby, and it's in a wire stem. Reason for this, again, I want stability. Pellet fishing, I want my bait to be straight down to the bottom, nailed over a little pile of bait. So wire offers that, it stops your rig from skimming about, you've got weight in the bottom of your float. I've got a nice thickish tip bristle there, 1.8mm bristle, and it's a pretty slim pattern as well. Moving down to the actual bulk shot, I've got a bulk 12 inches from my hook, and I've just got a bulk of number 9 cubes there. So I've got 6 number 9 cubes, and then coming down from that, I've got a little dropper shot 6 inches below that. Again, it's a number 9 cube. I don't like fishing too light of droppers. I feel like pellet fishing, I want a heavy dropper shot, so that way my bites will register a little bit easier. So I don't want to be fishing with like 12s and 11 droppers. Hook length wise, I've gone for 013 N gauge and a 4-inch length, and it's finished off with a 16s SLWG because it's got a nice round bend on it, and I would say a medium to long point. This means that I can fish lots of baits. I probably use this hook for 95% of my summer fishing. Be interesting to see whether they actually spit it out because it's too heavy, whether it gets rejected more than what I actually think. But today we're going to be fishing maggots, 4mm expanders, and also bits of corn on it. So it's a very versatile hook for that. My only worry is it is a little bit too heavy sometimes. Now we've picked what we think is the perfect spot to fish, it's time to look at the rigs and see whether they behave how we think they behave. So 2 things I'm looking for here. Stability, is my rig sitting how I think it's going to sit? Is it moving about? Is it drifting? Have I picked the right weight float for the depth of water? We've got about 6 foot of water here. I'd want to make sure that my rig's not too light and drifting about. That can lead to foul up fish. Is it sitting on the bottom like we think? You know, we've plumbed up to fish, say an inch, inch and a half on the bottom. Is it actually sitting an inch on the bottom?
I've not seen a pole rig underwater. Got a feeling it perhaps won't look like I expect it to, but also we've got the best in the business, Andy Bennett. He's a little bit perfectionist, got a lot of ideas about his rigs. Are they going to work as he thinks? Is bite detection going to be as good as he thinks? That's the sort of questions I've got in my head, and I can't wait to find out.
Once it's mild and I think the fish are feeding, I think pellets is a bait that you get a quick response off. So personally, I'd like to fish maggots, which we will go into later on, but starting wise, I'd like to get them in on micro pellets. I feel like in 6 foot of water you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a few options. We could try putting little balls in later on, see how they respond to that. And then eventually maybe get them onto 4mm. I always think to do big weights of these fish, you need to be throwing bait and attracting fish into your peg. For me, if I go to a venue, I don't have a clue what I'm doing, my go-to is always starting on pellets. If you start on micro pellets, you know that you're going to get a quick response. 9 times out of 10 you get a quick instant response. If I'd have started on 4mm in this situation, I feel like if it don't go under, then I'm second guessing myself. Whereas with micro pellets, everything's going to eat them, from little skimmers, little F1s, big carp. I can set a nice little tight pile of bait and hopefully get a response within the first 5 minutes. If the fishing's good, they'll eat all them micros anyway, and then I can still switch to 4mm or potentially maggots, etc., and try and make my peg better. But the worst thing you can sometimes do is start too positive with 4, 6mm, 8mm pellets, etc., and you're not getting bites, and then you're sort of going backwards.
We're actually filming this in February, so it's a little bit on the cold side. That helps with clarity. We need to be able to see. The beauty of underwater is we can see exactly what's happening on the bottom. There's also loads of fish in the clay pit, so I think it might start a little bit slow, but I'm confident once the fish find us, the action's going to be pretty frantic.
My starting point, my little pot that I've got on, this would be the amount of bait I would probably start with. And I'm very particular about bait me, so obviously we have the small pot, we have the medium. I actually chop our pot down a little bit, so I've got in between.
Yeah.
Now, we've got some in development,
Yeah.
so I'm very, volume of bait's massive, just like you do on a hybrid, for example. You'll have small, medium, large, there'll be certain volumes that you're happy with. So me personally, when I fill that up, I don't know, 150 pellets?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of pellets
Yeah.
in there. So that's what I'd probably start with. And what I always call this clump in my bait. If it was really cold, I'd sprinkle them, so I'd have a medium pot on and I'd be sprinkling the pellets, and you get that sort of attraction falling through the water. Sometimes that can be a great starting point, but what I'd find is that I'd be taking that pot off after 2 or 3 fish. I think
What, because the fish are coming up?
yeah, and I think the noise, again, we can have a go when there's some fish in our peg. I've got some 6mm expanders, but they're more for when I start feeding 4mm as a standout. I'll start on a 4mm expander.
You wouldn't start on like a hard pellet?
You could do if it was more carpy. If it was more carpy and less F1s, maybe hard pellets would be better.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's just see what happens, get some fish in our peg, and we'll go from there. This would be my springy, this would be my starting point in spring. Winter, spring, 4mm expander, feeding micros. I think that's like your bread and butter fishing for pellets. Obviously in the summer months the fishing's better. I'd probably adjust my feeding. I'd feed hard pellets. The fish are a little bit more hungrier, but springtime you've got to, you know, give the fish baits they want to eat, softer baits, smaller baits, you know, stuff that's not going to fill them up quickly. But going into the summer months you definitely have to change your approach. The fish are responding to different things such as noise that can attract fish into your peg. But you've also got to bear in mind that when you start throwing bait using noise, you can start spreading the bait out and your bites can tail off that way. So at the moment, keep things accurate, nice and tight, small, easy to eat baits, and that's a great way of starting your peg off.
I'll be interested to see, obviously, when you empty this pot.
So at my pot is 2 inch back from my pole tip as well.
Yeah.
I've got to account for that. Otherwise, when I bring my pole back, what I always teach people is when you bring your pole back, it's coming back towards you. So you've got to compensate for that. So what I'll actually do, my marker is there, that's where I want to fish. I always just lean forward 2 inch and put my pot in. So I'll see how accurate I'm
So
here.
you're looking to be really precise?
Yeah, so I'll lean forward 2 inch, put my pot on the water.
Obviously the idea with the pot is the water can penetrate it.
It comes out, I'm not banging it out, I just want it to go straight down.
Yeah.
Then I can pick my rig up, wait for my rig to fully settle. You see there,
Yeah,
I've come
your hook
back.
bait's in shot now.
So they've sank pretty quick then.
Your hook bait is, your micros aren't.
Oh, right. One thing I always try and stress to people is you've got to be accurate. Me personally, I always try and be super accurate in terms of like fishing in a pint glass. So it'd be interesting to see if I'm as accurate as what I think. Is my bait actually anywhere near where I think it is? Am I fishing on the back edge of it, or am I sat in that little pile of bait, a little bit like that method feeder sort of presentation? That's what I'm looking for, but on the pole. And for me, accuracy is like the most important thing when you're doing this style of fishing.
Myself and Andy fish quite differently. I think I'm quite rough, as in I'm not as precise as Andy. I know he's a real perfectionist in terms of accuracy. He likes his hook bait to be right on top of his loose offerings. So I'm really interested to see if he's as accurate as he thinks he is.
So is that good positioning?
I can see the hook bait, right? You've actually fell right in a... Here come the micros now.
Right.
They're all loose. And like they're covering, don't know, 4, 5, 6 inches.
Are they all in shot?
Pretty much, quite close to the camera. I'd say you've baited over 6 to 8 inches.
I think that's pretty, I'm happy with that then. That's a good spread.
There's still
I
an
feel.
odd one coming down now.
So you imagine if you're sprinkling, you're releasing them pellets over say a 10-second period, you're going to have a column of bait falling through the water for like 20-30 seconds.
Yeah. It's still a micro coming down now.
Really? So
But the spread's quite nice, you know. Literally, I'd say up to about 7-8 inch covered the bottom, quite tight. Hook bait's pretty much central. By the time those micros got anywhere near the bottom, they'd already split up, and he was covering probably a larger area than he wanted to. But that said, he's still accurate enough. You know what I mean? In that depth of water, I think there's always going to be a little bit of variance. So he wasn't bad.
Looking back at my presentation, I'm really happy with that. In 6 foot of water to get that tight of a spread, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Anything less, i.e. 3, 4, 2 foot of water, your spread's going to be a little bit tighter, or very, very similar at least, whereas in 6 foot of water I was expecting it to mushroom out a little bit more. So to be in what Steve said, 4 to 6 inch area, I think is really good. Obviously the fish will come in, they'll disturb this, but you've got to sort of keep forcing them back to that little spot. That's where you chose to fish. So yeah, accuracy for me, really, really important, and the spread I've got, you know, absolutely made up.
How far up's the bottom dropper on your rig?
6 inch,
Right.
and then I've got a bulk at 12 inch, so
Is that you start, like, obviously, while we're waiting for a bite, we might as well talk, obviously 6 foot of water, what are you thinking rig-wise?
the reason I don't like using like a bulk and 2 or a bulk and 3, I want to get my bulk down so I can lower it right onto that spot, and then I've got a dropper as a telltale sign, so I don't see any need in having 2 and 3 droppers. I just want my bulk. I know it sounds quite positive, but that's what I want with pellet fishing.
Do you think the bulk allows you to be more accurate?
Yeah, I can flick it out, wait for my rig to come back underneath my pole tip, lower it smack on the spot. I've got a dropper there just as a telltale sign to show up the bites.
And obviously float, are you a fan of light rigs, clear water, pellet fishing?
Pellet fishing at 6 foot of water here, I've got half a gram, which is probably about 4x14, 4x16 flow. I want to be quite positive. I just want to be able to lower it smack on that spot. I'm not looking to catch fish on the drop.
Yeah, are you not like a, obviously, if it was me, I know it's not me, I like to lift and drop. So I'll be lifting, well, probably don't leave my rig still for like more than 20 seconds, but I notice already
I haven't budged
you
it.
haven't moved a single thing. Is that how you fish, or is that just because we're talking?
No, I just literally
Lay the, set the
treat
trap.
it, yeah, I treat it like that hybrid method feeder presentation. That's what I'm looking to achieve. Once my rig's in position, I'm not a massive fan of lifting and dropping. I always stress this. When I've fished in the margins and across to far banks, I've seen it myself where I move my rig and fish spooks, and I can't see how it changes any different underneath the water when it's 4, 5, 6 foot deep. So for me, F1 fishing in particular, carp might be a little bit different, but F1s, I don't like to move my rig. I feel like you spook just as many as what you attract.
Myself and Andy have got polar opposite opinions. Andy thinks it spooks fish. I get so many bites as the rig settles again after lifting and dropping that I'm convinced that it catches a fish's eye, fish homes in and sucks it in. So it's interesting though, because Andy obviously catches a lot of fish, that he never does it, whereas it's something that I've always relied on.
I always find when this works, everything happens within the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'll patiently sit there for 3 or 4 minutes, and after 3 or 4 minutes, I'll be back in and feed again.
So
Because
like, it's probably been out, I'd say, around that time now. Would you now be thinking I need to feed again? Or would you
first
be thinking,
chuck, probably not, but once I get into the session, yeah, I'd be thinking another minute there. If I hadn't had a bite, I need to draw something in my peg. There's obviously nothing in my peg. I need to draw some more fish in. I've had no liners, no signs. It's like,
no, and obviously you can't see the screen, but nothing's
been in.
been in at all, no?
No.
Nothing.
It
I can see all the
doesn't-
micros, your hook bait's sitting, your hook bait's not moved since you dropped it in, so it's nice and stable, but there's no activity as such.
Yeah, sometimes I always feel it takes like 3 or 4 feeds to like, I think they love bait falling through.
Yeah, I always think when water's clear, oh, fish.
Does the fish come in then?
Yeah, literally as you went to refeed, then 2 fish appeared at the back of screen.
Typical Steve, not paying attention. Fish has already been in my peg, he's telling me he hasn't, so I don't know if he's trying to play mind games with me here or something, but he's obviously not paying attention, is he? Come on, Ringer, sort yourself out. Right, so
I would stay. They've just.
I would feed that again now, because I just think I've had no signs, my time has passed, and I always feel like 3 or 4 feeds, so what I've got to make sure is important here is flick that bulk, past the shelf, don't worry about your rig, turn my marker, that's where I want to fish, compensate, lean forward 2 inch, bait in position.
You're very, very precise in.
Yeah, this is the time to take, this is when you should take your time, I feel.
You feel it's critical to be that accurate?
Yeah.
He's literally 2 inches out, but I know that's something that will bug Andy because in his head he thinks he's bang on. But in reality, 2 inches, few micros all over the place, he's still fishing more than effectively.
Even on camera, it looks quite good still. You're still talking like a 4 inch difference. So yeah, there's little things that could maybe improve. Maybe I'm not paying attention, and paying attention is really important to make sure that you go into that same spot every single time. But also, is there anything we can do to improve that? Can we move our pot, or can we shorten our line down so we're really, really accurate? and try and be in that little pint glass area. Give yourself that little 4-inch square area and see if we can get the bait in it every single time.
Location wise, your hook bait's absolutely spot on. What I'm not, you're definitely on bottom, which
Yeah.
obviously, and wherever you've sort of laid it in, you're on bottom. So how you plumb up, you know you are factually correct that you're fishing on bottom. The only thing that's interesting, and I'm not sure whether it's the camera angle, your dropper shot ends up looking like there's a fish in the swim, fishing is homing in.
I'm getting a sign on my float, little tiny liner.
There you go, yeah.
Foul hooked?
I reckon you had, no, it's in the mouth.
It's in the mouth?
Yeah, but I reckon
What a great bite that.
2.5 seconds after he sucked it in, you got the indication.
I would be playing this now thinking that's foul up because the bite wasn't fast enough. The reason I thought it was foul up is because it weren't that fast, clean, sharp bite. When I'm fishing, I'm always looking for that fast bite. Sometimes it'll just be a little dink on your float and it doesn't fully go under, and that sort of imitates the fish sucking that bait in and your float moves quickly. Looking back at that now, I can see why, because the bite was sort of slow, and that's because it went for the micros and it unintentionally sucked the 4mm pellet in with it. It didn't directly go for the 4mm pellet, which I think would have given it a cleaner bite. But I think that tells you as well why a 4mm expander is such a good bait. It's very light. If the fish goes to suck at anything, it takes a whole lot up with it, and without even knowing, he's sucked my hook bait in there.
Well, we're off the mark. Great start. First fish comes in, nails the hook bait, but bite detection wasn't great. That fish had it in its mouth quite a long time before Andy noticed anything. But also, perhaps even more impressively, that expander pellet, that fish never went for the hook bait, but the hook bait actually, because it's so light, literally flew into its mouth. Was that the raisin scoop?
Not quite, was it? Right, there we have it. First ever underwater fish for me. Absolute cracking common, probably 8.5 pounds.
I'd say it's a good 8 pound. They're proper solid fish. Clay Pit is famous for long, lean, hard fighting commons, and that's a brilliant example.
Dark fish as well because of the water's so clear. The bite was pathetic as well, really. It was a tiny little dink on this. It might have looked a bit different on there, but for me,
really confident fish. Obviously, the light hook bait seems so important, and watching it on screen, obviously, I didn't tell you it had sucked it in because I wanted you to react.
Yeah.
It never looked like that fish was going to eject that hook bait.
no, he nailed it, mate. Let's get him back. I'm not gonna lie, first fish of the day, really nice. You've got someone like Steve Ringer sat behind you, criticising everything you do, one of the best anglers ever lived, and it's just nice to confirm what I think's happening actually happens, and it's sort of all gone to plan. So yeah, first fish, fantastic. Hopefully we're in for a good day.
You're blind as such.
Yeah.
What would you be thinking now? What in your head are you thinking's out there? What's any bait left on the bottom? What happened when you hooked that fish?
I would think the size of that fish, I've hooked it and the bait's kicked away, or it maybe plumed up a little bit, and that may have drew some fish straight back in.
There are a couple of fish have come in, but what's really interesting is, like your feed area,
Yeah.
there's still probably 40, 50, 60 micros in that tight spot. It hasn't gone. Maybe because it's 6 foot deep, they haven't been blown all over the screen.
Yeah, I think it could be different when you're edge fishing or in shallower water, but I would still think there would hardly be any bait there.
Just lift your rig again so I can, there you go, yeah, I got it.
See it?
Micros, you're just coming down now.
Is that good positioning? I feel like I'm bang on there.
Just lift it again. You're just over the back. Oh, got a fish coming into shot straight away, as though he's seen those micros falling. 2 fish coming into shot. Just lift it again so I can see it. There you go.
You see that?
Drop it down now, yeah. I've got it put, brilliant positioning for the hook bait. When you just repositioned it,
Yeah.
you've actually repositioned it more on top of your bait.
Right.
Before it was probably 2 inches, looks like just past. But those micros falling through the water have definitely pulled a fish in. Pulled 2 fish in.
Little indication then.
Yeah, it's
Liner.
actually not near your hook bait at the minute, the fish.
Right, that was a little.
You're going to get
Twitchy
another
liner.
liner now, I think.
Yeah, little liner.
Yeah, you just had a line, it hit your line and it spooked out of the swim, but there's still another fish there. And interestingly, that first fish spooking hasn't scared the second fish.
I don't think the fish did spook. I think it just had its little fill and it just sort of swam round. It was going to probably circle back round and come back for another little feed.
Something else I've noticed, right, there's loads of movement, as in your line's moving loads before the hook bait moves, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
as though you've got a fair bit of line on the deck.
Really, see, I think I've got about 1.5 inches on the bottom there.
The camera suggests there's like probably a bit more. And it's like, I could see when you had that liner just then, the shot moved like 3 inches across the screen before you had an indication. If you said to me though, how am I fishing, as in your hook bait's literally right on top of a cluster of probably 60, 70 micros. I do think though, it was really noticed, you know when you fed,
Yeah.
when those micros were falling, 2 or 3 fish, there's a fish at the back of the shot now, but 2 or 3 fish, like, as though they saw them visually, followed them in, fed a little bit, you got the liner, and then they're pretty much spooked.
So as I hoped, pellets was quite instant. Second feed, third feed, fish are on the bait, starting to get a bit of activity. For the time of year, I think that's really good, and the accuracy is good. So yeah, pretty much everything what I was expecting is going to plan. So now I'd be thinking, I've had a liner, that fish has gone out of my peg, there's no fish there. That's what would be going through my head. Obviously, I know you said I spooked one. I'd be coming back and feeding again now.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, because there's no fish there at the minute.
Right, okay.
But the only thing I would say is, the one thing you're maybe slightly not accurate with is, there's still plenty of bait where you are.
Right.
The bait, even when that fish spooked, it didn't blow the micros all over the place.
But I feel like if I just sit there dormant, nothing's
I don't think you're
going
going to catch, no.
So I feel like you've got to keep feeding, so
This will
lean
be really
forward.
good when you feed these, to see if within 30, 40 seconds, a couple of fish appear as though they've seen those micros fall in.
Yeah. So I've
There's
leant forward.
there's fish there now, as though it's heard the noise
Really?
of the pot, possibly. Can't see your hook bait. Oh, just lift it. It's at the back of shot, yeah. That's it, lower it down. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You landed in a bit of weed, but... Yeah, your micros are falling like short of the float, short of the hook bait.
Right. See, I've compensated again and leant forward, so maybe you need to lean even further forward. Obviously, it's 2 inches back from my pole tip.
You know what I mean? I'm being like, because obviously I know you're a bit of a perfectionist. I'm nitpicking, like, you're only like 1 inch or 2 inch out.
Well, what I'm going to do next time, I always have my pole pot
Fi-
2
fi-
inches back.
Fish in the swim again, which I think goes to show,
They're coming to that bait.
yeah, they're coming to, although they're not actually eating loads of it off the bottom, they're definitely seeing another fish coming in. They're definitely
Inquisitive.
seeing it.
One thing I've always thought is that fish, F1s in particular, and carp are attracted to bait falling through the water regular. And I think this perfectly shows that when that bait's falling through, you get a little visit from the fish, they sort of lose interest, and regular feeding, you know, it's a cliche, but little and often really is the key.
Bait falling through the water is massive. So if you're not catching, it sort of emphasised what I've always thought. If you're not catching, even small amounts of bait just trickling through is likely to pull a few fish.
See me there now, I always fish with 2 inches back because I don't want my elastic to catch my pot. So I always think 2 inches is a nice distance, I'll compensate for that. What I'll do is I'll move my pot a little bit closer next chuck
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if that,
and see if I'm right on the mark.
obviously I don't know whether I should tell you this, but your hook bait's like fell in a hole.
Right, see I'd
But
be
obviously
happy
you
to
wouldn't know
sit,
this.
yeah, I'd be
There-
happy
there's
to sit
a-
there.
There's a massive mirror on the screen now, and there's not that many mirrors in here, I don't think.
I wouldn't move my rig now, I'd be thinking
No,
to
because you
myself,
wouldn't know.
I'm in a good position. So we'll leave it and see if they miss it, do you know what I mean?
There's
Again.
fish, like, that feed there has stimulated a lot of activity.
See, I'm not getting any liners or signs. I've not had a
So
sign
if I
this
told
chuck.
you there's a fit carp that looks £8, about 1 inch from your bottom dropper,
I'm not getting any signs on my foot whatsoever though.
the only problem is they are really colouring it up now.
What's crazy to me when I look back at this is how you don't get liners. You know, there's fish, good sized fish as well, like not small fish, 6 to 8 pound fish, 2 to 3 pound F1s in your peg, and your float's just not moving. Like, do they manage to just avoid that line, or, you know, has it directly got a sort of catch on the fish's fin or something to move it? Like, maybe they can brush past it and it just doesn't register on your float. Like, maybe the liners you're seeing are just when the fin catches it, or, you know, actually moves the bulk or something like that. So yeah, it's mad when you watch back how you can have fish of sort of this size over that little area and your float's just sitting there. At this point in time, I won't think there's a fish in my peg. No, I know I would leave this and I wouldn't feed again until I finger, but what I'm going to try I know you're a big fan of lifting and dropping, so I would lift it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't normally do this personally.
Right, you just dropped it down.
I've got a sign straight
He's
away.
going to say he literally watched that bait move
Yeah.
and was like, oh my God, that's moved, and just home straight in on it. I told you so. Lifting and dropping is the way forward. It catches me more fish. I'm 100% convinced. And what's even more impressive and what I love is I can sense the disappointment in Andy's voice.
So my hook bait, I know now, is sat in a little crevice. Ringer's already told me this. I feel like I need to lift and drop it because it's not in a great position. He's telling me that there's a carp 2 inches from me, sort of little shot. As I lift and drop it, the fish sees it. And I'm not saying lifting and dropping doesn't work, but Ringer swears by it. The float goes under, I get an indication. I've got an 8-pound carp attached to it. Ringer's going to be absolutely loving this, but it'll be interesting to see whether lifting and dropping works better than what I think it does. And me personally, I only did that because Ringer told me it was in a little awkward spot in between 2 rocks. So yeah, interesting, but Ringer's going to absolutely love this now, isn't he?
In that occasion, yeah, if you said to me, I want to illustrate how effective lifting and dropping is, you've just done it. You moved that bait like, I reckon, 3-4 inch off bottom, dropped it back down, and he literally, you could see him change direction and just be like, I'm eating that. Well, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say, and I'm hoping Andy's going to listen to me a little bit more now.
Proving me wrong all the time,
Yeah.
aren't you?
That's what
Imagine
I do.
if you went F1 fishing, Steve.
It'd be unfair.
Can we move Ringer's box back a couple of feet? I think his head's starting to swell a little bit. What I will say, Maddie, oh, bad net.
Can we just net them for you or not?
If you could, please, yeah.
Do you fish much?
Stay in it on job. Come on. Start it. Right, we'll get it this time.
I was quite pleased when I beat you. I'm not so sure now.
Oh, look at that lovely scoop. That one, wasn't it? What I was going to say is, like, I do think carp love visual. It'll be interesting when there's some F1s in my peg.
See, I think lifting and dropping, I love it personally.
I know, you're massive.
It's effective as well when the water's clear.
And I know, like, you do it a lot to straighten your rig back
Yeah.
out again. It makes perfect sense.
Right, you're 2 from 2, which is annoyingly impressive. But there is still a few micros on the bottom, which I think you find quite surprising.
Yeah.
Would you carry on now doing the same? Are you happy? The one thing I'd say conclusion-wise straight away, and I think we can prove it this time, there's no fish on screen now.
Yeah.
If fish appear, there's pellets on the bottom. So it seems to me the pellets on the bottom have got quite limited appeal.
Yeah, you've got to have bait falling.
In terms of pulling fish, you need bait falling. So I'll be really interested to see when you feed this time, whether within 30 seconds we see fish again.
Well, I was interested that you said I weren't as accurate, so I'm going to move this forward. See how I've got it 2 inch back?
Yeah.
I'm going to move it forward 1 inch. I'm going to stay in line with marker, same marker, move forward 2 inch and just see if this is a little bit more accurate. And then again, just going to fill that pot up, clump them in. Steve keeps saying that I'm 2 inches short, so I've just got to compensate that a little bit, and I want my bait to come out super accurate in the right spot. To achieve this, I've actually doctored my pole pot and I've cut holes in the pole pot. Our pole pots come as standard, they've already got a little hole in. What I do is I enlarge the holes even more with a pair of scissors, and what this does is when I put my pole pot on the water now, the water gets in and it flushes the bait out. I'm very particular about my pole pots, and one great thing that's come out of this is actually it's brought us on to design a new pot. So we're going to have a fast release pole pot. Probably won't be out by the time this video comes out, but not be long after. And the reason for this is I want that bait to release perfectly every time. Most people, going back years ago, they go out, they tap the pot on the water, you get the vibration from your pole tip, and your pellets can end up 2-3 inches to the left, 2 inches to the right. You're not being super accurate. I'm looking at that water, I'm looking at my marker, I want to go out and I want to feed it in that spot every single time. So by positioning my pot, let the water melt out, I can lift my pole pot off gently. You also don't want to lift your pole pot up too quick because that can mushroom your bait out. So it's just letting that bait come out and deliver it into the peg exactly how I want. And I think that's how I'm going to achieve that little dinner pile. And if I can create that little dinner pile, the fish come in, they can only sort of eat off this one little area. And the more I can focus them in that area, the quicker I'm going to get bites.
What's really impressive about Andy's feeding is how much he thinks about what he's trying to achieve. Like with his clumping at the start, looking for a very tight presentation, and then equally when he taps them in loose, that bigger spread, more pellets fall in the noise, pulling fish. So he's constantly, in a match situation, varying his feeding depending on what he wants to achieve. Do you think like float shape obviously is important for this style of fishing?
I always like a slim pattern, so obviously here we've got a 1.8mm bristle, a bobby, because we could be fishing with hard pellets, we could be fishing with bigger baits like corn. But float pattern, I just think a cleaner, slimmer pattern strikes easier, lowers it in nice.
Yeah.
I don't want a bodied float for this. If it was windy though, a bodied float would probably not drift as much in the wind, so it wouldn't be ideal. But what I want here is my bait to sit really still on the bottom, and I imagine if it was windier it might drift. So say I take my back shot out now, is my bait moving at all?
Your hook bait?
I feel like my float's just moving.
Just move it again then.
So I'm not
your
touching.
Shot, you know your bottom shot, yeah?
Yeah.
Is just like,
Twisting.
yeah, tiny bit of movement.
Yeah. See,
Like I
when
have to stare at the screen with it. Your hook bait's not moving at all, but I can see your shot just drifting slightly.
yeah, and when I put that back shot in the water now, I imagine that just anchors everything down and keeps everything stable.
Yeah, your shot's just like, it's just
Is it still
almost
moving
vibrating.
now?
It's still moving all the time.
Right. And see, that's
There's an odd roach in the swim now.
that's a half a gram bobby in 6 foot. I would think that's a very stable float for that depth of water. When the back shot was out of the water, your float was drifting slightly, and this caused the sort of shot to move ever so slightly to the left or the right. As soon as we lowered the back shot, it sort of made the rig a little bit more stable, anchored everything down, but you're still getting this little shuddering thing, just moving, your shots just sort of moving up and down. I think that's more to do with the actual water movement. I don't think you can actually get away from that, or it's not something that particularly bothers me. I'm more worried about what my hook bait's doing, and this is the reason why I like to fish with a little bit of line on the bottom, say an inch, inch and a half, just to make sure that if there is a bit of water movement, you know, I don't want my pellet sort of rising up. My pellet was sat there nice and stable, it looked natural, it was on the bottom, seemed to sit pretty nice for me, to be fair.
Your float can't be 100% still, but that's something I'd never thought about before until we saw underwater. Is it a problem? No. Did it bug Andy because he's a perfectionist? Yes. Oh, fish just coming in now.
As daft as it sounds, that's how I would
Just lift and drop that pellet. Just see.
Just had a little blow or a bubble near my rig there.
Yeah, I'll be honest, yeah, I love lifting and dropping, but them two fish didn't like that. They were F1s, and they both exited the swim.
So I proved you wrong.
I think carp come to lifting and dropping and F1s didn't. As much as I'd love to lie and just say they were never there, that bit of movement of the hook bait, I don't think they overly liked it.
Shall we try a sprinkle pot next? Bit more
Yeah,
of a
would
column?
you sprinkle pot 4 mils or micros though?
I'd sprinkle pot micros because in my opinion I've had two fit. What I'd be thinking now without looking at the camera, I'd think I've had 2 carp in my peg, I've caught them nice and clean, but I'm not attracting any F1. I haven't had an F1 yet.
You have had F1s visit the swim, I will say
But
that.
I wouldn't know that.
No.
I'd be thinking there's no F1s there, I'm not getting liners, therefore I can sprinkle my bait and drag more fish in.
A lot of people wouldn't think about sprinkling micros into 6 foot of water, for instance, but straight away Andy wants to achieve a different presentation and pull more fish.
What I would say is don't be scared of feeding, that's how you attract fish into your peg. Sprinkling's great for attracting them, but when they're there, I feel like in deeper water especially, clumping is brilliant, especially in the warmer months. The colder months, fishing in shallower water, sprinkling is normally the king because you just get that little bit bigger column and it just attracts more fish, I feel. So I'd go out, sprinkle pellets. I feel like I'll get a bigger spread on this. So it's maybe not as accurate as clumping that bait in.
Is that your hook? I can't see your hook bait, you just lift it and is it on the bottom yet?
Should be coming in now.
There it is, yeah, I got it. Can you come a little bit like closer to camera? That's it, your micros are just coming in now as well. That's it, I got it.
What's the spread like on them?
Falling at different rates more.
Yeah, that's what I want though when I'm doing
They're
this.
still falling like, I'd say with the clump, they're more uniform.
Yeah.
There's a fish just coming in now. Just coming in. F1.
So I'm going to feed
Let me know if you
because
get
that's what I
indication.
would do in a match. I'm going to feed some
Get
more
indication
pellets.
then.
I was feeding then.
Right,
while
it like jerk your bottom shot up. That's it, just drop that hook bait down. got a good chance. Big common at the back now, if he comes in.
There's going to be bait coming down now. Does that spook them?
No, there's fish literally all over you. It spooked them, yeah. And the bait's arrived and spooked the common and an F1 off the spot.
Right.
There's another common though now following it in. Almost like the fish that are already there don't like the bait landing on them.
When we fed, we actually spooked a couple of fish. Now they didn't tear out of the peg, they didn't sort of like bolt off, but they just sort of got out of the way of the bait, and then I feel like they'll just come back.
I've always believed that bait falling on top of fish isn't necessarily a good thing. My analogy's always been if you're eating your dinner and someone started throwing stones at you, you'd stop eating. But what's apparent is they don't particularly like the pellets falling on the back, but it's not spooking them, it's just making them reposition, maybe leave the swim and come back in at a different angle. So is it a problem? Not really, but it sort of emphasises what I've always felt is if I knew there was fish in the swim, I'd try and catch them rather than feed on top of them. I almost feel like now, this carp's going to call me a liar. Looking at the screen, there's a lot of bait on the bottom and it's quite hard for them to find the hook bait.
Right.
Like this, oh, you could get picked up. Oh, he's sucked. There's an F1 like just sucked all over your hook bait, but like...
I've not had a single line.
No, he's right on top of your rig now. He's spitting gravel all over the place. He's eating a rock.
You're winding me up. I've not had a sign. Here we go.
Yeah.
Little indication.
No, you just ignored your hook bait there. It's almost like this F1's preoccupied on the micros.
Yeah. It's unbelievable really to think that the fish were right on top of my bait there and I've not had a single sign on my float. Is that down to the bristle thickness or is it down to just the depth you're fishing in? If I was fishing in 2 foot, would I get a lot more signs? If I fished a finer bristle, would it show more signs up? If I had my bulk lower, would it show more signs up? These are all things that I'm looking at now that I've seen the clip, but the thing that amazed me is my float just sat there, this fish right on top of my bait and it's not even budged.
If we go back to sort of underwater 2 at Ferry Meadows, something I took from that, and it's reinforced here, is you can have fish in your swim and not even know they're there. So as an angler, ever since that day, I always assume there's fish in my swim, and if I'm not catching them, I'm not doing it right. And this shoot in particular is really backing that up. There's one eating a leaf about 1 inch from your hook bait.
I'm not getting any signs
No,
here.
there's 3 fish like literally all over the screen. Here we go, here we go. Here we go.
I wouldn't
Oh,
think there's a fish in my peg.
Here we go.
Here we go, little liner.
He's got the hook bait. He's had it ages.
Never.
Have you got a bite yet? Or has he
A
dropped?
little lift then.
Yeah, he's had that.
Has he
Yeah,
really?
he's had that 2 seconds when I said he's got the hook bait.
It doesn't really bother me that that fish has gone down, ate my bait, picked it up, because I've still ended up catching it. It didn't spit the bait out. You know, when we watch Steve fishing on like the feeder one, you're missing millions of chances. Here, what I'm noticing is if the fish suck the bait in, you pretty much catch the fish. We're not getting millions of liners, even though the fish might be brushing against our rig. I feel like it's just the way the fish is fed here. It's gone down, it's picked my bait up, it's come directly up in line with sort of my rig, and the bite detection has just not shown up. Now, if I had a bulk sort of, you know, 4 inch from my hook, like I would do, say, in summer margin fishing, as soon as it moved 4 inch, it would dislodge my bulk and I'd either get a big lift or it'd go under. That's one way around it, but I don't feel like you want a bulk that far from your hook. I feel like then you would be getting lots of liners, you'd be foul looking more fish. So for me, presentation wise, I'm happy how it is. I just feel like I didn't see that bite for 7 seconds because of the way the fish basically come up off the bottom in line with my rig.
7 seconds the fish had the bait in its mouth. Is there a way to improve that? Possibly. Am I surprised? No. The only thing I'll say is you're 3 from 3.
Yeah,
No other fish has got away with it.
It's big F1 in here.
I've been to see whether that's hooked, whether he swallowed it, because it looked like he just
Had it in its
cracking
mouth
one
for
edge.
ages.
Yeah.
That was a lift bite then.
Was it?
Yeah, it's
Would you-
in the side of his mouth.
Right.
I would have lifted it, yeah, because it sort of went down and then it rose up and I thought something's had that for a while.
A lift bite's quite common, you find, with this style of fishing.
No, not
Oh.
really. Like most of the time, I feel like you're looking for a little sharp dink on your float. So look, I'm happy. I've caught the fish. Nothing's got away with it up to yet. But while we've got this opportunity, I feel like it's time to experiment. So I basically had my shotting pattern. My last dropper was about 6 inches from my hook. Then I had my bulk at like 13 inches. So I'm just going to bring everything down a little bit. Just make everything a little bit more positive, just to see if my bites show up a little bit quicker. But you know, we'll just see what happens.
we're criticising obviously how positive your rig is, but nothing's getting away with it.
No.
While you just hook it, is it important, obviously, how you hook an expander?
Well, I've always hooked them the same. So like, you've got a rounded edge and 2 flat edges. The way I hook it is go through the round bit. Obviously, I've got a 16s LWG on, which for a 4mm expander, it basically, you can bury your hook into it. So
Yeah,
it's
so you're
perfect,
almost threading it on.
yeah, so it ends up like that. It's the perfect shape hook for a 4mm. And obviously I could put a 6mm on, but if I'm using a 6mm, I'll go to a 14s hook.
Right, to get more purchase on the pellet.
Yeah. When it comes to hook choice, for over a decade now, I've used pretty much an SLWG for 99% of my fishing. In the winter, if I go to venues where it's smaller F1s, few skimmers, I do like the F1 pellet, it's a little bit lighter weight. But when I'm fishing a venue where it's got big F1s and potentially some bigger carp, like today, carp up to 8 or 10 pound, I think the SLWG is the perfect sort of wire gauge, and it's the perfect sort of bend on the hook. It's not too long of a shank, it's not too short, it's just like a nice medium length shank, and then the point of the hook and the bend, it lends itself to so many different baits. I can use that hook for basically maggots, casters, worms, pretty much absolutely everything. But for a pellet, 16s SLWG, 4mm expander, you can bury it in there. It's got the wasabi point on it, which means that it never goes blunt basically, so I can use that long periods of the day, any bait, corn, meat, you name it, it's just my go-to hook. So hook wise, I'm really happy that it's not let me down. I've had 3 fish suck it in and everyone has been hooked. Another thing I'm going to do is move my back shot down a little bit closer to my float, just so that I can be even more accurate.
So there's no fish on screen again now. So when you feed,
See, I wouldn't have my bolt. I feel that's a bit too positive.
So do I.
So we'll see what happens.
I'll be interested to see, you know, I always feel if you bulk's too close, you run the risk of foul looking more.
Well, we'll see.
Right, there was no fish on screen when you obviously.
So I'm going to empty half a guru pot there. So there's probably.
So you're looking for, like, you're filling the pot so you can get what, a couple of feeds off it?
2 feeds, yeah.
Obviously you've just fed. There was nothing on screen. They're just coming into shot now, the micros. Definitely a more spread, not a bad presentation at all, but definitely more spread out, and you're slightly in at the back of your bait, it looks like.
Right.
It's very similar to when you were clumping it. The micros are landing closer to the screen where you hook bait slightly further. Just
So
lift and straighten that rig again.
So when I'm flicking my rig out, it's not coming under my pole tip like I think.
No.
So if I lift
it's sticking
it now,
out, it's getting stuck, I think, because you've got more line on the bottom.
yeah.
Obviously when you plumb up, you like to have a bit more line. You drop that right in the crevice, just lift it. That's now more that's in amongst your loose feed now.
Right. It looks,
I
look where my pole tip is, it looks bang on now, that, to be fair.
I think when you swing it out, it's actually getting caught on the way back. What I started seeing on the screen was that Andy's bait presentation was slightly out. He was sort of laying his rig in, letting it sort of fall back. But it was sort of catching on the bottom before it sort of swung under his pole tip. So the only way you can sort of combat that is, and it's something I'd never thought about until we'd watched it on the screen, is to almost let it swing in, and then when it swings in, just lift the float 3-4 inches clear, hold it for that extra second, and then lower it. Only that way, for me now, can you be 100% certain you're on your bait. This one's eating on the pellets that come really close to the screen because he's completely blocked the shot. It's an F1 again.
I'm amazed how many fish are in your peg. Like, up to now, I've
Should
had
get a
3,
liner now.
yeah, a little liner.
Yeah.
That looks like a liner.
The
like
line has sort of spooked him, it's gone.
So I'd be giving this 20-30 seconds. In my head, I've just had a little liner. I'd want to be dragging fish back into my peg all the time.
Yeah. I honestly think we can conclude that bait falling through the water is massive. When it comes to bait falling through the water, something I've learnt already is there's more than one way to do it. Andy's already demonstrated 3 different ways: clumping, tapping it out from a height, sprinkle, lid. All achieve a slightly different presentation, and it's all about what you're trying to achieve as an angler on that particular day. Sometimes you might want a clump type presentation. I think that's best when the fish are already in the swim, but when they're not, that sprinkle lid is a great way of pulling them. There's a fish there straight away again.
Have the
At the back
pellets
of the screen. They're just
now?
coming into shot now, and I can see a fish at the back of the shot. So they're definitely, whether it's noise or bait falling through the water, that is stimulating activity in the swim. They really like to be at the back. 2 coming in from the back now. Just lift that hook bait like an inch if you can. They're clever, I tell you, the F1. There's an F1 now, just like, it's hoovering all the micros up. Oh, it's kicked your hook bait under a log. It was hoovering all the micros within half an inch of your hook bait.
Really? I wouldn't think there's a fish there. I'd be almost like wanting to come off this
I reckon
line.
he's at like 30, 40 micros and he's that far from your hook bait. He's gone now.
I'm amazed you get this many visits. It shows like presentation's massive, innit? It's frustrating knowing that you're saying this fish visiting like most chucks. I've literally had 3 signs, well, five signs, 3 proper bites, 3 fish. You know, maybe 15 pound in weight. I'd be thinking, right, this short line's done now.
Even though Andy's obviously an amazing angler, it's really interesting to see that what he thinks is happening under the water isn't happening. In his head, because he can't see, there's no fish there. Whereas there is odd fish coming in and out constantly. But again, going back to underwater 1 and underwater 2, when it's only a single fish, they're really hard to catch. And I think Andy's starting to realise that. Something I'm really noticing is, although we're 3 from 3, I feel like you should have had maybe 5 fish. They're not sort of pinpointing the hook bait.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether this will work or not, but like, it's going to be nice and visual. A grain of corn, bright,
Try it.
clear water. I always think corn's at its best in clear water. When they come in, are they going to see that better?
Steve's now suggested that we try a bit of corn. If it's F1s in my peg, I'm not a massive fan of it. I don't like corn. I feel like F1s love soft baits, small baits, they can pick and choose. Corn's quite a big bait. It could be 8 and 10 mil in size. It's heavy. It's not real. I don't think it's going to work. If there's carp in the peg, it could be great. I love it for carp fishing, but for F1s, it's not for me.
In my own fishing, I'm a massive fan of sweet corn as a bait, particularly in clear water, particularly in February. It's high vis, fish can see it, they home in on it. In my head, it's going to get a really quick reaction. Will it? I'm not so sure.
No, I know what you're going to say. Me personally, if I was fishing with carp, I'd pick a massive piece out. If I was fishing for F1s, I'd try and pick a small bit out.
I'm very similar.
So you go a big bit of corn?
Yeah, put a big bit on so we can
Okay.
really overemphasise.
And what I'm doing here, I'm hooking it through the top, coming out the side. Would you hook it like that?
Exactly the same, yeah. Exactly the same. What are we thinking of feeding?
So I've changed my pot back to clumping just because sprinkling, drawing, fishing, but I've got a feeling now I'm not feeding enough bait.
No,
you agree?
I sort of agree. There's not.
So back to that clumping pot, instead of 100 pellets, 150, because we've got a couple of quick fish. So I think as long as the bait falls through, once it's on the bottom, from what you're saying, it's pretty much dead.
It seems to be. Once there's been bait on the bottom for maybe 2-3 minutes.
And I don't like clumping pellets, sprinkling pellets in 6
No.
foot anyway. I'd much rather clump them. This is how I feel I would fish if I was fishing.
This will be interesting because there's actually a few F1s at the minute just milling around, not really settling. We're going to see how visual this corn is as well.
So bait in position.
There's fish there now. Literally, the one F1 just bolted straight out the swim. Then I can see the corn. One's watching it fall. He's watching it.
Is that accurate?
You're slightly further out, but I can see it. I can see it well.
I can imagine I'm further out because when I lower my pole tip, I think I'm an inch too far. And me,
There you go. You've lifted it again now.
yeah, my corn
Yeah,
told
just
me
lift it
that.
again. Because I'm giving you an advantage, but it fell straight in down the crevice. That's nice. That's really nice. Yeah, since we moved that bulk, I can really see it. And my gut instinct is obviously you can't see what's on screen. They don't like how low that bulk is.
Yeah.
Because of the poor bite detection, obviously I could see on the screen, we moved all the shot down a little bit, only like a couple of inch. But over a period of time watching the screen, it's really apparent. I honestly think the fish can see that now, or the line's too tight through the swim, because they're still visiting, but they're just sitting sort of 6-8 inches further away from the rig all the time, as though they don't quite know what's wrong, but they can sense something's wrong. And to me, it's either the shots or it's that tight line. That's a carp. Nice, great big common just come over the top then, but again didn't drop. He's feeding slightly off camera now, to the right. He's facing the wrong way, otherwise I'd say lift it and drop it, and he'll just eat it, because that's what they do.
Yeah. They love lifting and dropping.
Just lift and drop it now, like 4 or 5 inch. There wasn't really one close enough there. Just lift it and drop it again now, because there's a carp coming. He didn't, and again, because he's getting closer, and it fell in a hole. I'll just try and take it to the right a bit so it's coming away from screen. He's going to eat it. Oh, he was going to eat it, but we wouldn't have been able to see. He might, and again, to the right. Quick, that's it. It spooked him, it did, to be fair.
Come on, Ringer, it's more like lure fishing this. Just lift and drop, lift and drop. No, just leave it still.
Problem was, I think he might have eaten it, but we wouldn't have been able to see.
Yeah. See, that's why I don't like lifting and dropping. I feel like if it's perfectly in its eye line, yes, it's brilliant. It's going to see it, grab it. But the amount of times...
Oh, first time you've just been done?
Been done?
First time, yeah.
Float never even moved.
No, you
then.
just stuck your corn in and moved about an inch and spat it.
So the first time we get done is when I've got a piece of corn on. This is exactly why I don't feel like corn's a great bait for F1s. They never spat the 4mm expander out because the weight's not there. I feel like that fish there, he's felt the weight of that corn, didn't like it, not having that. No, I don't like corn.
When we switched to sweet corn, we got done for the first time, as in fish came along, sucked it in, blew it out. I think there's 2 possible reasons for this. Firstly, corn's a heavy bait, so it's easier for them to eject, whereas that expander, we saw it straight away. It literally flew up, and I think it's really hard for a carp or an F1 to deal with. The other reason that's possible is we've moved those shots down. Maybe they felt that resistance a little bit quicker and it had time to eject the bait. Which it is, I'm not 100% certain, but it'd be one of the 2.
I always find I miss a lot of bites when I fish corn for F1s for that reason.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not
it's
convinced.
too heavy.
I was just interested to see whether they home in on it. I wouldn't overly say they have. There's plenty of fish activity. Oh, hang on.
Yep. Ooh.
No, you've struck at a liner and scared the hell out of him. Literally, like...
Do you think we should move this bulk away again? Then?
Yeah, I think move the bulk away. And how about...
I'll go back to what...
How about try me a 6mm expander?
Okay.
Over the period of time watching the screen, it was really apparent they didn't like that low bulk. They didn't like the dropper being too close. It's almost like everything was too tight, too direct, and they sort of sense it or just feel it on their fins and then they bolt out. So in my head, it should have worked, but in reality, it didn't.
This just looks way too big for F1s for me, but...
I feel it'll back up what it might, unless a carp comes in, I've got a feeling nothing will eat it. But I feel it'll back up how cute the F1s are, as in they're just singly picking up micros.
Yeah.
Like you just fed. There's an odd fish milling around at the back. Hook bait's not come into shot yet.
Should do now.
One tried to eat it on the drop then.
Really?
Yeah. Right at the top of the screen, one tried to eat the expander. I think the F1 trying to eat the hook bait on the way down, to me, just backs up how important bait falling is. They're really happy to see something visual and follow it down, so it backs up Andy's sort of theories on feeding. And for me, Andy's not going to like this, but it backs up also the effectiveness of lifting and dropping.
Is that good accuracy?
No, you're too far out and it's landed behind. Just lift it, drop it. Micros are just coming in. I can see it now. That's nice. F1s are definitely showing interest in those micros falling. Big F1 just swimming over the top. He's eating micros.
Oh, liner.
Liner.
Liner?
You fouled him, yeah.
Oh, have I?
Unless something blindsided me.
That looks slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Foul hooked.
I think foul hooking on odd fish, it's an occupational hazard. Maybe you can change your feeding on certain occasions to try and minimise it or feed different baits. It can be caused by that. But it's impossible when you've got fish constantly moving in and out with a vertical rig that you're not going to strike at the wrong indication occasionally. So for me, just one of those things.
I didn't foul like any fish on a 4mm expander. Is that because there's not enough weight on your hook, or, you know, is it just a coincidence? Fish have been coming into our rig and brushing past it, not really had any issues. Does that heavier hook bait give you a bit more stability and that's why it's shown up? But I don't know, I can't be conclusive on that. But what I know is my float shot under, I've struck, I fouled up my first fish. Did it make a difference having a 6mm expander on? I don't think so. I'm a bit surprised by my accuracy because I think I'm bang on. I'm thinking if I shorten me line down by another 3 or 4 inch.
Yeah, shorten your line then.
And just so I can't let me rig drift off the spot.
Because that's something that's really important to you. And if you can find out a shorter line's going to give you the
accuracy.
100% accuracy,
Yeah.
that could be a really big edge.
Now I'm being very nitpicky when I say this because I'm not 100% accurate with my feed. I'd say maybe 95%, something like that. But to get that extra few percent, what I'm going to do now is just try and shorten my line down just to make sure that my rig can't drift off the spot. I don't like having too short of a line because then I feel like you could be twitching your float and it's unnatural. So I'm just going to shorten it down, maybe 6 inches, just so that I can make sure I'm not drifting beyond my bait. When I'm flicking these heavier baits in, because they're heavier, they're sort of straightening out and sitting on the back edge of my bait. So I want to try and just make sure that I'm right on top of my bait, right in amongst the loose feed, because it's so obvious these fish are focusing on the micro pellets, and you just kind of put your hook bait in amongst it and hope they make a mistake and pick it up. So now I reckon that's 6-7 inch.
Yeah.
Move my back shot
You've got
down a little bit closer.
You've got F1s visiting the spot quite regularly now.
I don't think I can have much shorter line than this without having, you know, if there was any wind or anything like that, presentation would be quite bad. Your tip would be moving and moving your float. So turn that 2 inch forward.
There's an F1 feeding, so I've been interested to see if he spooks. Oh, he's got a bit pixelated. Expander's just coming into view. You just spooked him then as the expander was coming past. Just lift it up again because it's gone behind a swan mussel. That's it. That's lovely. Pellets are just coming into shot.
You've really got to wait for your rig to straighten out, you know. If you let it go, it just goes that extra inch or 2 further.
See, I'd say there now you're better. Your pellets are actually right on. Your accuracy's much better now.
Yeah.
Straight away, one of the things that impresses me most about Andy is being 2 inches out is really bugged him. So he's made a change, shortened his lash is in line between pole tip and float by a couple of inch, and it's transformed his presentation. He's bang where he wants to be. So already, although he can't see the screen, he's learning from what I'm telling him.
So what's blatantly obvious here is when I'm flicking my rig out, that shorter line now is bringing it right in line with my pole tip where I've fed my pellets. So you imagine I'm trying to fish right on top of my finger there. I was swinging it out before and I thought it was the bait originally, being heavy. It's just sort of straightening the rig. It's not, it's just I'm letting go of my rig that slight second too early. So when you flick your rig out, you've got to really wait for it to come back onto the spot. It's no good sort of like just shipping out and trying to drop it down because you might end up too far up the slope. So you've got to flick it out, but you've got to take that time to let everything straighten and then drop it in position. And if your line's just that little bit too long, even though you're looking down at your float, it might look like you're straight and you're not. So just take that extra few seconds, let it straighten, and that's how you're going to be ultra accurate.
One coming in, one coming in, one coming in, one coming in. Nope.
Are they ignoring the 6mm?
Yeah, totally.
Totally ignoring it, too big. Should we whip a 4?
When it just your hook bait's in a really nice position, so to give it 30 seconds. I can't believe how obviously they're ignoring it.
I've only ever caught like probably twice in all the years I've fished on a 6mm expander.
Yeah.
And they've always been real big stamp 3 pound F1s. Like anything £1, £2, I always feel like a 6mm is just way too big.
It just shows though that they don't home in. F1s don't home on a target bait.
Yeah, it's like a piece of corn.
They're feeding
6mm.
so close to it, and it's in such a good position visibility wise.
Does this spook them when I strike?
When it went oh, he was just about to eat it.
Was he really?
Literally, like.
Did it spook them that though? Like if you missed a bite, would that spook
No,
them?
I don't know if you can see the.
Oh my God, look how many fish are there.
Yeah.
How have I not had a bite there?
You would have got one. It was literally like, please, no. I can't believe Andy did that. I literally watched the fish, it just opened its mouth, and Andy struck the hook bait straight out of the way. You couldn't make it up.
So I can't believe how many fish are there, but I can't believe I've not caught one, to be honest. Well, I can, because at this point, I feel like I've got the wrong hook bait on anyway, so yeah, I feel like we need to change hook bait. I'm not fishing the right thing, even though there's a million fish in my peg, and I'll just literally yank one out of its mouth, but I feel like we need to change the hook bait. It's not right.
Right, let's try a 4mm. I've got a 14s hook on, so this is way too big. I would never fish like this, but
I would.
I mean, that don't look right to me. Do you
No,
know
but
what I
I
mean?
think if we can get it in the swim, because of the amount of fish you've
Well, it
now
might.
attracted,
It might prove that hook
if you'd have
size.
left it a second,
He would have gone for it.
you'd have had him.
Did he spook though? when
No,
I
not.
struck?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and the hook bait was in such a good position.
Let's try again. 2 inch forward.
They're
Pellets
ripping
in.
the bottom up now.
It'd be interesting to see whether they're bothered now. There's loads of fish in the peg. Whether
It's just
bait
whether I
falling
can-
on
it's
the
whether
red.
I'll be- oh, there's the hook bait. Oh, no, it's not. I can't see the hook bait at the minute because there's too much going on. Is that it? You might just et it straight away. Yeah.
Yeah, is that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but because he was facing away from the camera, I saw the hook bait come down, but I couldn't see a clean pickup. I probably didn't realise at the time, but that fish definitely saw the hook bait falling into view. Again, going on a lot, but reinforcing that lifting and dropping is really effective. But also something I've already learned about F1s is, I think they're a little bit pickier than carp. So that smaller hook bait can make a difference.
So if that don't prove to me that the hook bait's key, then I don't know what will. We've got the wrong hook on. We've spent all that time fishing with corn and 6mm expanders. As soon as we've gone back to a 4mm, they're willing to accept it, they're willing to suck it in, and we've literally caught one within seconds. So for me, I think it shows the importance of having the right hook bait.
Let's have a look at that one. It's a nice little...
So it's in top right hand corner.
Yeah.
That'd be quite fine. Do you know what I mean?
Literally almost as though he watched it come in and just followed its path and just sucked it straight in. You cleared the swim.
Right. So I'll put another big expander, big 4mm on.
Micros are just coming in now. I'd definitely say you're a little... I still wouldn't say your accuracy isn't like that much better looking at them micros. But I don't know if it's the motion of the fish
Pushing them
pushing them away.
Bit of water movement.
Yeah. I think it's in that crevice there.
Are they staying together by the time they get to the bottom?
No, they're
Right.
spread over like 8 inch.
Right. Okay.
Just lift it like half an inch. So I could see it.
See that? Oh, there we go.
That had it for absolutely ages.
Really?
Yeah, ages, yeah.
So again, it's happened where the fish has had its mouth for quite a while, but it's not bothering me. I've caught the fish, I've seen the bite eventually. You've got to remember here, when we had everything bulked down that little bit tighter, we didn't actually catch a fish. All of a sudden now, there's two things here for me. We've got the right hook bait on. We've probably still got the wrong hook on at this point. We've still got a 14s on, so I feel like, does the weight of the hook make that much difference? But one thing that's key for me is we've moved everything back up. The shot's not in the fish's face anymore. You're not seeing the bulk on camera, which means everything's just that little bit further away, and maybe the fish feel a little bit more confident. And even with the wrong hook baits on, you're not catching them. Put the right hook bait on, they're picking it up. They're swimming away confidently. They're not spitting them expanders out. Them 4mm expanders, they're not spitting them out. So when they suck it in, I'm catching the fish.
Again, bite detection there was poor, but the fish didn't eject the bait, I think, because it's light. But also, again, it was all about the movement. That bait dropped into shot, fish saw it dropping in, zoomed straight in, sucked it in. Movement is everything.
If I was in a match now, I'd feel like, right, I need to look somewhere else in my peg. I need that peg to come good. If I keep potting micros, I can't dump pot micros because I think fish will back off it, big volume of bait. If I start throwing 4mm, I feel like that would kill me pace. So I feel like that's not the right bait. I need to be throwing maggots there.
Yeah.
That's what I would do on a typical match, because when you throw maggots as well, I feel like you can throw maggots in, you draw more fish in, it gives you the option, if a lot of fish do come in your peg, you can catch them off the bottom, whereas you can't with pellets as easily. So I feel like now I'd be changing to maggots, but I'm interested to see whether we feed some 4mm and it actually makes the peg worse.
Let's do the 4mm.
See if it makes
Because
it
that's
worse.
genuinely something you want to see for your own fishing.
Yeah, I
and
want
then
to
obviously
see
if it goes as you think it will and it will flatten it,
Yeah.
then maggots will be a great way of possibly restarting it.
Re-getting the
Yeah.
fish back in the peg.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to 3/4 fill my pot, dunk my pellets so I don't get any floaters off them.
Oh, catch your keep net.
Got catch me keep net. Hook wise, I've got a 6mm pellet on, but it's a small 6mm.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get like a longer, heavier 6mm.
So you've not soaked your feed pellets at all?
Not soaked
They're
them.
bone dry.
Bone
straight from
dry.
the bag.
If I start to throw a few, I'm going to have to soak some up. but these are straight out the bag.
So how many feeds are you going to get? Is that a medium pot?
I'm going to try and tap like 10 pellets in, I think.
Is that the medium pot with a sprinkle lid?
Medium pot, sprinkle lid. I'm going to look to tap literally like 10 pellets and see if I don't get a response, maybe feed like
There was no fish there when your rig went out. So if I can see the 4 mils coming in. That's your hook bait coming in at the back.
at this back.
Yeah, again, you've got that same issue with not an issue.
What's that? I'm stuck on
You've
something
hooked a muscle. Lift it again, but you're still stuck on it.
No, I'm out of the water now.
Okay. Yeah, you hooked a muscle. They fell in exactly the same position as the micros.
That's one thing that's...
I can't see that hook bait now. Oh, it comes.
Coming
Yeah.
I think I'm really accurate, but you've got to wait.
You're not.
For your float
come to the right a bit.
You've got to wait for your float.
You've got a twig now.
Have I?
Yeah. Lift it. You still got it on.
Have I?
What? Has it fell off? Or is it
No,
still
I've got it.
Yeah, nicely done. Andy's just switched to hard pellet, obviously on a band, which means the whole hook's showing. And having not caught any sort of debris off the bottom, he's caught a twig straight away. Is that because the whole hook's showing? For me, it has to be. For that hook bait, yeah, I can see it.
See how my float's still spinning there,
Yeah,
twisting?
your hook bait's coming back now, that's better.
You really have to wait ages for your rig to straighten.
That's where your bait's been landing.
Yeah. That's one thing I've learnt today, 100%. You're just putting your rig in too quick, you're letting it go too quick and it's going 2 or 3 inches beyond where you want to be.
You'll see there, my bait's spinning quite a bit. Eventually it'll stop, then you can lower it in position and then you're going to be smack on your feet hopefully.
So I would sit here now and I'd be like, right, I'm only feeding tiny bits of bait, but if I was fishing it, I'd be wanting to put bait through my swim all the time.
There's fish in the area, there's a big common right at the back now. Looks like a big common. Fish coming along the other side. There's fish coming. Nice cut. There's another common coming in from the right. They don't beeline though, because you've got a few micros still on the bottom as well.
Yeah.
I feel like they're eating them at the minute. You didn't have like a blank canvas. Oh. No, you struck at a liner.
Did I?
Scared them.
So what I'm going to do...
Scared the fish you struck at, but interestingly not the others.
If that were me now, I'd put another 10 pellets in. I'm just going to keep fishing.
Did you just tap some more in then?
Yeah, I'm going to keep fishing as if I don't know what's going on.
Hook bait's too close to the camera.
It's too close, so I need to relay it.
Yeah, it's big common coming in now, big common.
£20?
18.
Tell me when to take my rig out.
Gonna perch to guard the pellet. Something spooked him then.
So I'm waiting,
he's trying to eat your pellet on the drop.
Is it?
Yeah, he's dropped it though. And F1 tried to eat your pellet on the drop. Now the perch is trying to just lift it again because the perch has put it in a hole. There's loads going on.
You don't see any of this on your float?
No.
Sometimes you try things in angling and you just get that instant feeling like this is not right. Today, you're feeding, we're not getting like liners on the way down to say like the fish are off the bottom. But what I am getting is, I feed hard pellets and there's no response on camera. I can tell the fish are just not interested in them. And I think that's because your bait sinks too quick, you're not feeding enough particles, and micros are just way more attractive. So I feel like we're fishing the wrong bait now, we're just not going to catch on this.
Hard pellets just didn't work. I will say in my own fishing though, I've never felt hard pellets are great for F1s. They're more of a carp bait, and watching underwater has sort of backed that up. They just didn't seem right, didn't seem to have any attraction, and as a result, there was no bites. I love the way Andy's thinking. He's already not happy because there's loads of fish on the screen and he's not catching them. So his first reaction is, we're on the wrong bait. Now, I've always believed F1s, they tell you if you've got it right, and I think Andy's thinking is totally correct. There's a lot of fish appearing, they're not really confident, so a switch to maggots is logical progression for me. Right, we're going to switch to maggots, but the first thing I've noticed is a lot of people would be thinking, just put maggots on the other rig, and I notice you've just completely picked up a different top kit, different flow. What's your thinking behind that?
I think maggots fall slower, so what I'm going to potentially try and do now is flip my rig out, hold a tight line, let it fall in, so I can try and let them see the bait, because from what we've spoke about, they're obviously sat a little bit off bottom, so I think that might work well. They might see it, follow it to the bottom. I don't want my rig to be as too positive, so I've gone for a bulk and 2 droppers rather than a bulk and 1 dropper, just to slow that little last bit of fall up. You could fish a strung bulk, but again, like when you're fishing on that little shelf bit there, I've already found out I'm not as accurate as what I think I
No.
am. Only by a few inches,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking I'm bang on top of my bait there and I'm not. So I think we'll just go in and start feeding maggots just to see whether the bait changes make a difference. Personally, I would build this line up, but we know there's fish there, so do you think we just fish and just see if they start picking it up?
In my early days at Tunnel Barn Farm, which is another famous F1 venue, quite often I'd start on pellets, maybe not get a response, switch it to maggots and catch instantly. And what I want to see is if the F1s that have been reluctant to drop
Just go down.
to suddenly start dropping and picking up maggots more confidently.
I think we're going to have a lot more particles on the bottom now as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start, I've got red and white maggots, I think that's a big thing. When it's clear water, I'd normally go for reds, but the reason I've chose whites is purposely because I want to see if it makes a difference. Are they picking whites up more than reds?
Yeah.
Obviously you'll be able to see that. So medium guru pot, changed my lid, I've gone for an open top lid now. I'm going to fill it up because that's about the volume of bait which I would feed in 6 foot of water.
Yeah, and I presume you're working on the basis some of it's not going to make the bottom.
Yeah, so there's probably 30, 40 maggots in that. And then what I'll do is I'll dunk it under the water so they don't fall out.
Is that the reason you dunk it literally
Just so I don't spill
so
them
they're
on the way
sticking
out.
on the inside of the pot?
And then I would flip my rig out, and this is how I'd put my rig in. I'd flip my rig out, lean forward, tap my maggots in. I'm not looking for as big a spread here.
No,
Draw it back to where I'm fishing. You see my back shots now. I'm going to hold that down to the bottom, and I think that's going to come back onto where I'm fishing, but maybe it won't. I'm already getting...
because there's a bucket load of fish in the swim.
Well, I think I've just had a little roachy sign then.
I think it might not be a roach.
Do you not reckon?
Just lift it and because obviously at the minute I can't see
So
anything.
there. Can you see that?
No. Yes, coming in. Yeah, I can see it now. It's landed really nice, and F1's looking at it. Oh, he mug you off.
Never. I
Yeah,
did have a
suck-
little twitch there.
Sucked it in and dropped it.
I had a little tiny...
They're sitting like
My float moved the mill then.
the maggots are just, you know the maggots you Luke potted in?
Yeah.
They're just arrived. But your hook baits, you know the two maggots?
Yeah.
They're kicking like opposite each other.
So first cast on the maggots, we've been mugged off again. I think it's just purely a coincidence. I don't feel like it all looked a bit hectic to me. There was a lot of fish in the swim, but maggots are a light hook bait. Do you miss more bites fishing with maggots? I feel like you do, to be fair, but I think time will tell. I'm not going to say, you know, we need to change something just yet, just because the first fish has come in, sucked it up and spat it out.
Getting sort of done on maggots straight away was quite interesting, especially as Andy fished double. I always believed in fishing double, got more bites, but having watched that, maybe a single would be better, but also it's our first drop. It's probably too early to tell. Which is something we did see on Underwater 2 at Ferry Meadows. 2 and 3 maggots didn't look...
Kicked off like a T-bar, didn't
Yeah.
it? One that way, two the opposite way.
Something else I noticed straight away on the screen was 3 dead maggots sat absolutely horrifically. I couldn't imagine it could sit any worse. In my head, I'd always thought they sat nice and straight, tight little bunch, but they sat splayed all over the place, like literally like a bag of spanners. It just looked horrible, and the way the bream were picking it up, it also suggested they felt it was horrible, and it looked wrong as well, which I think is massive. The bottom has pretty much been scoured out since we started fishing. Oh, here we go. Oh. Pretty sure he's...
Little liner, there we go.
He's just swam off with them really confident.
What's interesting for me here is like that fish has picked the hook bait up again, it swam off, and then I've seen me bite. I always envisioned that the fish would suck the hook bait in and it'd be like straight under. You know when the bite's right. It's like nice, sharp, positive wallop under, which is what I'm seeing on my float, but it's not how I envision it underwater. Maybe that's because we're fishing in 6 foot of water. In shallower water, will it be a bit more direct because you've got less slack in your line, etc. But we're not missing bites here, so there's nothing to sort of worry me.
So they're literally the fish that have been escaping us. Typical,
Yeah, and that was
like,
by far the best reaction we've had to any bait. You had a missed pickup just before that.
that was just a nice, clean, that just felt dead easy.
Yeah,
in the
I still
past.
think, although obviously you hooked it, your bite detection isn't as good as you'd expect, but and there you got your bite, and you wouldn't normally know if you couldn't see underwater.
I don't feel like they drop maggots as much, so this time I'm going...
One did drop you though, bear in mind,
Yeah, I know.
So maybe try hooking them different to see how they fall.
So if
Because they're
I-
falling, if you look like that,
Yeah.
like they're not falling together.
So one through the fat end, one through the thin end. They're still going to kick out, I think, aren't they?
I think from what I've seen of underwater so far, they will kick out.
No matter
I
which
don't
way
think
you
2
look.
looks as nice as we think it does.
No. So it should be coming in somewhere about nowish.
Yeah, don't know if that's a loose. Yeah, I can see them. Yeah, maybe sitting slightly better. Just lift it up and straighten it because it's gone in. Needs to land on top of her. That's it. That's nice. Maggots are just coming in. F1s are eating them on the way down.
Really?
Yeah, trying.
That
Oh,
line
it just fell down your hook bait's just fell. You're too close to camera now. You need to come to the left, come back. That's it, and a little bit out. If you can. That's it, really nice. Oh, it's just fell down because they're live. Just lift it again and see if you can get it a couple of inches further out. That's it, oh, they fell down a hole again. Let's lift it. That's one thing that's immediately noticeable because they're live.
Any little hole.
Yeah.
But surely I would get a bite. Like if is that in a hole now?
Yeah, it's a bit lower, Zeb, but
See, I would leave that there now.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't normally know.
That's what
it's
I'm
just
saying,
so I
so-
can see. I know where they are now, so it could get picked up here.
Let's see if they can't see them. Do you know what I mean? I'll leave it there. See if I get
See,
a bite.
there's one
from
on
it.
top of you. Oh, the other one's blocking the shot.
Did you get that?
No, other one came across the shot, so I couldn't see the one that was.
But do you think that was still like they've picked it out though, haven't they?
Yeah, but where you put it then, I could still see the maggots until the fish swam across.
Do the live maggots go into the cracks? Well, you can see they clearly do. Do the fish go in and get them? Yes, they clearly do. You know, Steve here, I feels like he wants it in the right spot, obviously so you can see yourself, but I think what that shows there is fish will dig for the bait. If they know it's there, they will go and find it. And I think, especially on venues where there's a lot of silt, this is exactly what happens. They go digging for it. As the maggots are trying to get into the silt, that's when you get all that bubbling and fizzing, your peg starts jacuzzing as they disrupt the bottom. So I think as long as the bait is seen coming in, that gets you a bite a little bit quicker because the fish knows, right, that's where it is, and then they go rooting for it. And if it's falling in between the zebra mussels, if they know it's there, they'll go and find it.
Let's put double red on.
Put double red on.
So this is both through the fin end, this. See if it sits a bit tighter.
It's like they're actively, you know, with pellets,
Yeah.
they're just cruising around the area. With maggots, they're actively looking for them.
Because they want them.
I think you'll have to let it go straight again to get it.
See, I feel like my maggots there are going to be... Someone's had that on the
Yeah.
way down, look at that.
I think you're going to have a real problem getting to the bottom now.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
The switch to maggots has definitely paid off. It's got a bit more activity in the swim. And because the maggots sink that little bit slower, we've even got F1s having them on the drop in February, as sort of illustrated by Andy Lowe and his rigging, and one that's took it. So first impressions of maggots, really impressive, and sort of backing up Andy's thinking about pellets weren't quite right, maybe maggots are the answer. That's just come up off the deck or come up from mid-water and just picked him up. I think, although there's a lot of maggots now landing on screen, so they're not all been eaten on the way down.
Look at that, it's just...
Great big F1 again.
It's like they just don't want to eat pellets, isn't it?
No, but I don't know, how many maggots do you think you're feeding at a time?
30, 40 maggots?
I'd say at least 30 of them have got to the bottom. Something that's become really apparent quite quickly is the fish have scoured out the bottom. The bottom now bears no resemblance to what we were fishing on at the start. Loads of swan mussels have become exposed. There's loads more crevices. The maggots are constantly rigging into crevices. I can't see the hook bait. And they've completely changed it. That is something that happens in fishing. I didn't realise that they were exposing like the swan mussels, etc. But quite often in that situation, you'd plumb up a metre to the left, a metre to the right, maybe go a little bit further. With a camera in position though, we haven't got that option. Clay pit has actually got me really thinking about what I'm fishing on. To me, all these swan mussels and even bottom crevices, that's not normal. But then I fished clay pit. I didn't think the bottom was like that then. So is this situation more normal than we think?
Enough is enough. With the exposed swan mussels making the fishing a nightmare, it's time to call it a day and come back in the morning to use the knowledge we've learnt today and test it on a fresh spot down the edge.
So moving into the margin, I was interested to see what would happen here, to see whether we get different stamp fish in our peg. Would there be more carp coming in the peg? It's a little bit different to your usual margins as well. On the clay pit, you've got really deep margins, which sometimes better in winter, to be fair. You've probably got like 4 to 5 foot of water in some of the margins here. When the water's clear in winter as well, you're not really looking for 1 to 2 foot. So sometimes coming off the bank on these commercials and fishing into that little bit deeper margin, i.e. down the slope, some pegs, can work really well. So feeding wise, I'd be interested to see what happens, which bait draws the fish in the most, and also the biggest thing for me is what type of fish are in my peg. Is it the same fish that are out in the lake, or is there a lot more bigger resident fish that just swim about in the margins?
With the old spot ruined, and when I say ruined, I mean it's just been overdug, been cleaned out, there's too many crevices, too many swan mussels on show. It's just not great for filming at all. We've moved to a margin spot, but it's not a typical margin spot. It's still 4 to 5 foot deep, but the big advantage now is we've got not a clean bottom, because I don't think the bottom's ever clean as such. We've got a cleaner bottom, we've got a blank canvas to work on. So it's going to be interesting to see if the fish change their behaviour a little bit because it's closer to the bank, and also we're in slightly shallower water. What depth are you, what is it? 5?
So that's 5 foot, yeah. I've got a little bit heavier than normal float, so I've got half a gram bobby on. Most margin fishing, you'd be fishing like 0.2, 0.3 of a gram. So it's a little bit heavier. I'm fishing with pellets to start with. I always find they're easier to catch on pellets, but we'll switch to maggots later and see if they want them more.
Yeah.
But I just think if I was starting a peg off, it'd be a little bit of pellet because it's a bit more instant, just like yesterday really.
When you say pellets, micros, 2 mils?
Yeah, micro pellets, starting with a micro, 4 mil expander on the hook. Just feel your way into it. I feel like it catches both F1s and carp.
Yeah, well there's no fish there now, and from what I've seen so far, I feel like bait on the bottom isn't doing much.
No.
So if we trickle a little bait in, although it's barren and in a normal situation, you wouldn't go down the edge and like basically feed nothing as you just start it off. In this situation, we've got clear water, bait falling through the water's massive. For like 2 or 3 feeds might be all it takes to get this peg started.
Yeah, I agree. Should we give it a go?
Let's have a look. Be interesting to see where this hook bait comes in and where the loose feed goes again as well, because you're like fishing at a different angle now as well.
Yeah. I find it easier like this because you can draw it to the spot.
Yeah. I haven't seen the hook bait come in yet.
Probably should be there.
Oh, there it is, at the back of the screen, yeah. Yeah, that's not too bad. The micros are just coming in now. Did you feed them, are you tapping them
I've
loose?
just sprinkled them in.
Yeah.
So I've got like half a pot left in me medium guru pot.
Pretty good accuracy.
Even if I don't catch a fish here, I think what's going to happen, you'll be able to see it. I think fish will visit quicker than we think, but you might not get a bite for a while.
Yeah.
And you'll be saying, there's fish there again. Just like on that short line, I'm like, well, I ain't getting loads of bites. How can there be 4 or 5 fish there? Surely you just get picked up instantly. But it doesn't, do you know what I mean? That's what surprised me the most about this underwater, is how many fish are actually in your peg.
Yeah, what I'm most interested in it, on the short line, where you were fishing, the bottom was horrific.
Yeah.
And we weren't very efficient, as in, I felt there was a lot more fish there. You'd be disappointed if you looked at the screen, whereas here, it's not perfect, but I'd say it's pretty stereotypical of a commercial swim. So in my head, when they do arrive on this bottom, they should be easier to catch.
Yeah. You're not
There's
saying like
fish in the swim at the moment. As you laid the rig in then, it's pushed them out. They're feeding like right at the back on the slope. Where's your hook bait? Is it coming back in? One's chasing it, is it?
Oh, yeah. Has he had that on the drop?
He followed it down. It was hard to see if he actually...
It looked nice, that.
It literally, as your hook bait's falling, he's seen it and just chased it basically.
That looked like I had it on the settle.
Fish love to watch bait falling in, and the fish is almost like aggressively chased it down to the bottom, took it. I've caught it what I felt like was on the drop, but my bait had literally just hit the bottom and then it's grabbed it. But if it had fell a little bit slower, I think it'd have actually took it 4 to 6 inches off the bottom.
I'm 100% convinced you would not catch that fish with a still bait trying to what I could bore it on. That bite was all about movement. Movement catches the fish's eye, particularly so in clear water, catches the fish's eye, it homes in on the bait, sucks it in. It's as simple as that.
I can't believe they've sort of like appeared that quick.
You know, if you'd left your bait on the bottom there, yeah, you wouldn't have caught that. That was all about sight. Hook bait comes into shot from above, and that fish has just literally watched it. Pop a hook, yeah.
Yeah, nailed it, yeah. Ghost F1.
That was all about visibility. A still hook, if you'd have left your hook bait in the original position, maybe you catch that fish eventually, but you're not catching it for quite a long time. We've kicked off in the edge, similar sort of approach, bait falling through the water, expander on the hook, and we've had a pretty much instant response, which just backs up what we've already learned, as in expander's a great hook bait, but most importantly, that bait falling through the water, if you want a quick response and to pull some fish, you've got to keep bait falling through that water. Nervous F1. Two F1s.
Liner.
These ones are hitting the main pile.
It's the first liner I've had that.
Three F1s. That might be a carp nearest the screen. It's hard to tell.
Float's moving quite a bit
Yeah,
now.
you got like, you fouled one.
Have you fouled it?
I think so.
So that fish, Ringer being a little bit slack there, you can tell he does a bit of feeder fishing because he just waits for his tip to get dragged in. The fish had actually had that in its mouth for about 8 seconds. But again, even though it's had it in its mouth for so long, I've hooked it cleanly in the side of the mouth and there's no issues. I've caught the fish, it's not rejected the bait. I've got that little formal expander on, you know, no problems from me. It'd be nice to see the bites a little bit quicker, but I don't feel like dragging that bolt down is going to be the key to it. I just think the fish have sucked it in confidently, and because it's not really moved off, I've not really seen the bite. So yeah, I'm happy enough, but Ringer, get to Specsavers, I'll pay a little bit more attention.
What we're looking at?
Side at mouth.
Yeah, yeah. I think the hook bait must have, when I was looking and feeding on the right screen, they just must have wafted the expander.
Yeah. Not a clean hook, but
No, but what was really obvious then was 4 fish in the swim
yeah.
competition.
That's your typical fish, isn't it? Like, that's what we're looking for.
They're a big stamp, aren't they?
They're good
For
stamp.
F1s. Proper golden.
Lovely fish.
I've just seen 2 fish at the top of screen, like they're reluctant to drop again.
And when I hook them,
One's just dropping now.
when I'm hooking them in this edge then, are they still not kicking any bait up off the bottom? Oh, there we go, that was a clean bite.
Beautiful that was. Already I'm starting to notice a little bit of a pattern, as in how the fish are approaching. They don't come in straight away to the main cluster of bait. 99% of the fish are coming at the back, and they all start feeding on the sort of straggly bits of bait rather than hitting the sort of main bed, which makes me think straight away, hook bait at the back of the bait is better, it's getting quicker bites. If you put your hook bait right in amongst the loose offerings as things stand, you're going to have to wait longer for a bite. That's a cracking F1.
It is.
Let's have a quick, I reckon 3.5, 4 pound?
It don't feel that heavy actually, £3. 3 and a bit.
I'd have given you 4.
No, he's not very fat, do you know what I mean? But yeah, he looks 4 there, but I'd say 3, 4, something like that.
My honest opinion when I'm looking back at the footage now is that what I've believed for like 15, 20 years does work. Trickling bait in, the way you introduce your bait, i.e. sprinkling or clumping your pellets, like it's worked. I've tried lots of different things in the past and I always sort of come back to this. It's your bread and butter fishing. It's so simple, but as long as you're accurate and you deliver the bait into your peg properly, i.e. when there's a lot of fish there, don't sprinkle because it'll cause more liners and more foul hookers. Positioning your bait, making sure it's right on top of your hook bait. Rig wise, not seeing any issues with that. I'm happy with my rig, I'm happy with the mechanics of the rig. I think what I'm learning from this is pole fishing is so effective because you don't get mugged off half as much as what you do when you're fishing a feeder.
Tell you what, I think if we can catch one more now, just to prove what we're saying, then like, what size hook have you got on?
I've got 16s LWG, 013, 4mm expander. So pretty much what I'd use spring and
Yeah, I think if we
summer.
can catch one more, that's pretty conclusive that what you do works.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, personally, I like to fish bigger hooks and heavier line. So
Oh.
I think it'd be really interesting if you catch one more. We're proving that the trickling bait's essential. Let's try a bigger hook, slightly heavier line.
Yeah. I'm seeing that dimpling again as if there is fish activity. So I won't be
Yeah, there's one in,
surprised.
that's one in now.
I could
That's
could
within
sense,
like
yeah,
20 seconds of you feeding, there's a fish feeding at the back.
I could sense there was a fish there. Just again, another little ring. They give themselves away. See the little bubbles
Yeah, I
and
see it now,
blows.
yeah.
One thing that I always try and use in my fishing is that little bit of watercraft, and what I mean by that is in the summer months obviously you're looking for like boils and swirls, but when the water's too deep and you don't see that, sometimes you're just looking for little bubbles, little dimples or rings on the water, and it just gives away like fish activity in your peg. You know, you get it with all different species, especially when you feed, you know, baits like ground bait and stuff, you'll see it dimple. But with micro pellets, even if the fish are just feeding on them pellets, you might get a little ring off the oil, or a fish just opens its gill and a little bubble comes out or something like that. And that's a sign, like, without even trying your margin line or your open water lines even, you just know, right, there's some fish there now, and then maybe it's time to go and have a look at that.
Oh, here we go, here we go. Come on, come on. Oh,
The float did move a little bit.
He came
then.
right to the hook bait, and then your line's laying the way he came in, yeah?
Yeah,
And it's like, because the line's laying
in his face.
in his face, yeah, it spooked him. You know, if he'd have come the other side,
Yeah, my line
your
was-
line's laying that angle, or the fish came there, hit the
Yeah.
line before it got there. An interesting point there was the angle of the line. There's no doubt that angle cost him the fish. In reality, he's quite unlucky, as in it's diagonally pointing towards the fish. The way it came in, it definitely felt the line, and it just bolted like a missile out of the swim. Can we do much about that? I'm not so sure. So when when you come back for the next feed,
Yeah,
do you know what I'm going to say?
tap it in from a height.
No, try a grain of corn.
Oh, a bit of corn, stand out.
Just to see, because they're not.
Homing in on my hot
Yeah,
bait.
I think it'll probably fail, but visibility-wise, they're not really interested. They see they've gone now. Both times you fed, you've had like a 4 or 5 fish visit for maybe 20, 30 seconds and then gone.
This is what I always find though with F1s, like I said a few times, it's like that first minute or two, and then once you get past that 3-minute period, it's like your chances, your probability of getting a bite just gets less and less and less.
Yeah.
So sitting and being patient for me doesn't ever really work. It's like, it's working out whether you have to feed every minute and a half, every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes. The maximum I'd ever leave it in winter is like, the depths of winter, 4 or 5 minutes.
See, I used to believe that obviously the reason you can't catch one is because they've cleaned you out, but it's not because they've cleaned you out. It's just they've come and had their fill on that particular pot,
Yeah.
because you've still got plenty of bait there, but they respond to the bait falling through, come and eat and then move. There's one just on the edge of screen now.
Small bit of corn.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just like a medium bit of corn there.
Up in the feed at the time made sense, and we pulled some fish, but for me, looking at the screen, we had a lot of bait on the bottom, and those F1s were being a little bit cute, so it gave them a lot of choice, plenty of area to sort of avoid the hook bait. So while we were getting sort of 3 to 5 fish come in at a time, they weren't actually showing any interest in the hook bait. Basically, they're purely sort of obsessed with the micros, and they don't stay and hoover for long. So having too much bait on the bottom for F1s, for me, just makes them really hard to catch. You watch them ignore this.
That buries it up pretty nice, to be fair.
Need a nice big common to appear. Fit this fish at the back now. I do think what you've done, that's definitely, as much as I hate to admit it,
Brought some more fish
Yeah.
in.
there's a nice common there. He knows the corn's come in. Come on, the corn. Don't let me down. Where is the corn? Is it coming in yet? Here it comes, here it comes. Go on, it's going to land right. Oh, it landed virtually in one's mouth. He ignored it. wasn't impressed.
Ringer, I keep telling you, F1s don't like corn. You're obsessed.
The corn literally landed virtually right in the fish's mouth and it wasn't interested. It was an F1 though, not a carp, so that's my excuse. Definitely got a lot more fish in the swim though. Here we come on. See, the only thing is, making my excuse earlier, you haven't fed any corn? Come on. Not sure whether that's like, because they know there's a rig there, or it's just time of year.
Or bait even. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd be thinking a switch to maggots could be better than pellets. Like,
It could be.
That'd be my next thought, do you know what I mean? Is like, am I even fishing the right bait here? They're coming having a look at these micros,
true.
They're not scoffing on them.
This one's scoffing micros and spitting stones all over the screen. He said they taste better than corn. Come on, just that yellow bit.
Just eat the corn so Ringer can be right.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, you're striking at liners. I'll tell you what, you'd have had that again.
Liners.
No, you wouldn't, to be fair. Andy's starting to get a little bit twitchy now and he's trying to think ahead. But I think the problem he's got is he can't see the screen. He thinks there's a blank canvas on the bottom when in actual fact there's a stack of micros, too much choice, making it really difficult for the fish to catch. So switch to maggots in his head makes sense, but in effect he's going to be fishing maggots over micros. I know this is something you wouldn't ever do, and I wouldn't do it either, but you know the way they're feeding?
yeah.
Like just suspend the bait like...
4 inch off the bottom.
I know, I wouldn't ever do it.
Let's try it, let's see what happens. That's what we're here for.
Next
innit?
time they come in, just to see whether they just absolutely panic.
Nail and eat it.
Obviously with an expander, not a grain of corn.
Yeah.
The idea behind suspending the pellet just off bottom is to put it right in the fish's face. It's not something I'd ever done or would think about doing, but on the screen, I'd just be interested to see what they do, as in how they react to it. Will they just swim up to it and suck it in, or will they be like, what's that doing there in the middle, and bolt off? Either way, it's going to be interesting.
So in all the years I've been fishing for F1s, I don't think I've ever won a match just spending my bait just off bottom. In fact, when I fish silverfish matches, if I'm really getting hammered by F1s and I'm trying to catch silvers, one of the things I do is try and fish off the bottom because I think it's the best way to avoid F1s. So I'm not convinced this is going to work. Suspending the bait, even though in theory the head's here and the bottom's here and they're looking at it, I've just never ever won a match or done really well fishing off the bottom for F1s, so I'm not convinced.
Right, here we go. This is going to be really interesting. How far off bottom are you?
I forgot to take
Forgot to move the float. Told Bennett to shallow up 4 inches. He's forgotten to do it. He's completely lost the plot and he's panicking now in front of the camera. Been to see if it does look like it's 4 inches off bottom or it doesn't even come into shot. Tell me when it should come in.
Probably 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hasn't come in yet. Here it comes. Yeah. It looks like it's virtually on the bottom.
It's about 4 inch, maybe 3 inch actually, because I was about
It's off bottom, but it looks like it's about that far. Don't know if
Yeah.
that's just the. Can you like move
Do you
it
think I should be higher from what
Yeah.
you're seeing?
more away from camera? Oh, when it leaves, don't move it, don't move it, don't move it, don't move it.
I ain't gonna get a bite doing this.
Great big comment, had a look at it then. It's like it's moving all the time, but you're off the bottom of the screen. I could do you go in. Can you put your rig weight? You've been putting it.
Yeah, that's where I've been putting it, so it must drift. Here?
Yeah, that's okay. Perch was looking at it then. I feel like you need to be higher.
What, like 8 inch off the bottom?
Yeah, just do another 4 inch so it's really prominent.
Yeah.
Felt like that comment actually might have seen it and not actually liked it.
Yeah.
Shallowing up 4 inches didn't really work visually for what I was seeing, so we're going to try it again. Another 4 inches, so we're proper off deck and on that line which the fish are coming in on, so they should come in and instantly see that hook bait. That's the theory. That's better. Visually that's a better height. Especially when they're really digging into the bottom. Yeah. Your hook bait's 8 inches off. Oh, he's turning, he's turning. Is he? I thought he was going to come for it then. Quite a bit of movement on the hook bait like this.
Doesn't look like it on the
No,
photo.
but it is.
Yeah.
Are they just going to ignore it? There's fish swimming around it.
I'll lift and drop it.
No, just leave it. There's an F1 light eating stones just below it.
Should we try a stone on the up?
He's, no, liner. He's striking at liners. Christ's sake.
It's linered off the bottom.
Maybe Ringo should get on the box and show us what he can do, because, you know, he's trying to make me look a fool here, fishing off the bottom with expanders.
What chance have we got? You can't keep a pellet in the water. It's coming back in now. Where
Should
is
be
it?
any second now.
Don't you? It's like they know it's up in the water now, so we're going to have a good feed.
Would you
Come
say
on.
they're clever?
Yeah, I would actually. It's drifting, it's drifting. Oh. Almost like they don't like, it's not. Just don't move it, don't move it, don't move it. Don't think they like it. It's like as though they know it's not.
Not right, just ignore it.
Yeah, there's like so many fish in the swim. There's a blondie there, I think, off camera. The only good thing is, you know, while we're doing this, they're eating all the micros off the bottom. The hook bait off bottom experiment didn't work. I think in my heart of hearts knew it wouldn't, but it was a rare opportunity to test it and actually see what was happening. Perhaps the most interesting thing was, and again, backs up what we saw in Underwater 1 and Underwater 2, when the hook bait's not on the bottom, the fish were really happy to feed. So they, in my head, they can definitely sense when there's a hook bait or a feeder or whatever there on the bottom. As soon as that's removed from the swim, they're feeding confidently.
When the fish see the bait falling and it settles on the deck, you can imagine the fish go down to feed off the bottom. Your hook bait's sort of suspended 4-6 inch. It's sort of above the heads and they can't actually see it. Nothing actually eats anything just off that little zone, just off the bottom. So for me, it's proved what I thought, and you know, it's not something I'd be trying or looking to do. And you know, like I said, 15-20 years of F1 fishing, I've never won a match or done well doing it, so it's not something that I'll be trying in a hurry.
At least we know why we don't fish like 4 to 8 inches offset now. Can't even see the pellet now. Oh, that's he's striking at liners again.
Should we go back on the bottom?
Yeah, go on the bottom, because you're clearly not capable of fishing shallow.
That's pretty conclusive to me.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I don't know how easy this is. Could you reckon you could lay your line the other way?
So, what do you
Well,
mean?
don't move
Mark?
it. Don't move it at the minute because there's a fish right near your hook bait. But the way they're approaching your rig
Yeah.
is the same angle as your shots are sitting. Oh, there's a lovely ghosty.
Oh, little
Don't
liner.
don't strike. I'm trying to help you.
I don't need your help.
Well, clearly you do.
I'd have struck and I'd have had a fishing net, albeit via the wing. Oh,
Another liner. What I'm trying to get Andy to do is change the angle of the line. The line's sitting at an angle, an arc towards where the fish are coming in, and I'm 100% certain that's stopping him getting bites. But we'd only know that through watching underwater, and the fish could approach from a different direction on any given day. So there's not really an answer in terms of how to solve it, because normally I haven't got a camera in front of me.
So at the moment I'm fishing with a tapered sort of spread bulk, if you like, where the shots just get closer apart as they go up the rig, but most of the shot is in that bottom 25% of the rig. And I just want to try moving a bit of the shot away, so I'm going to go to a bulk and 2 droppers, very similar to what you'd fish in that slightly deeper water, just to see whether just having 2 little dropper shots is not as obtrusive in the fish's face, and whether it's the shot that they're actually scared of, because sometimes they come in and it seems like they're avoiding the rig.
Andy's idea of bulk 2 droppers, less going on down by the hook, almost giving the fish more slack, makes sense, because it will give it a little bit more movement, and there won't be such a, it's not a tight line, but won't be such a defined line running across the swim, which I'm sure at the minute is preventing fish from going near the hook bait. Oh. You're striking at liners.
is that a liner? That was clean as a whistle.
Was it in the mouth? Oh, to be fair, I was looking at the wrong hook bait then.
First drop on the new rig, cleanest bite we've had. Ringer's telling me it's a liner. Clueless.
Yeah.
Correct.
Do you want these glasses?
No. I honestly don't know what I was looking at there. I was obviously looking at a completely different bait on the bottom, because for once, Andy's right.
That was a different rig.
With less shot down?
Well, less disturbance. We had that big weighted spread bulk. This has got a bulk and two. It's more of a maggot rig.
Told you it was in the mouth.
Thinner tip, carbon stem, just a little bit lighter and nicer. Maybe they can see all them shots spread out
Get
in
that
the
little
clear
in
water.
amongst them big uns.
It's £4 that.
Change of rigs worked immediately, and it's backed up what I've always sort of started to believe since we started filming underwater. You've got to assume in your head as an angler there are fish there, and if you're not catching them, it's because your presentation, your hook bait, something's not right. And Andy's just illustrated that perfectly. Change of rig, change of shotting pattern, fish in seconds. How you've been feeding the swim has generated a really good response, but what we've caught's been pathetic. And now this is something I wouldn't do, but I'm intrigued. We filmed Underwater 1. I feel like at the minute we're feeding the fish, not catching them.
Yeah.
On Underwater 1, we put a pink wafter on and they ate the wafter before they ate the pellets, which I've found absolutely astounding. So what I've done, got some almond goo, got some of your formal expanders. I'll just tip a few on there. Dyed a few, like a reddy pink they are.
Yeah.
So they should give off loads of cloud, loads of flavour, a bit of pink on my hand. Honestly, this isn't something that I would ever do.
I've never done this.
But we've got a once, almost in a lifetime opportunity.
See if we can get them to hold
Yeah,
them.
they might just, if they just home in on eat that, then we just delete this whole scene. I don't know what'll happen, but at the minute, we're really ineffective.
Yeah.
And I'm quite excited to see if we've been missing a trick for...
If it was me and I was looking for an option, it'd be like double maggot over
Yeah, I
it.
think
Do you know
that's
what I mean? That's probably more what people would do. Or a piece of corn, but we've tried corn and
people
that's
do
not...
love flavouring expanders. Let me know when it's coming in.
I'm interested.
I'm buzzing now.
I'm interested to see what happens here.
Oh, what's
I don't think I've ever used goose, so...
There it is, it's coming in, coming in, coming in. Nice position, nice position. Don't eat that. Oh, good job the micros have saved us. I can see it nice and prominent, nice and prominent. There's one fish in the swim, so he's difficult to catch. It's whether he can smell the almond. I do think, to be fair, one fish is difficult. Turn round. Two fish coming now. Three fish. Is one going to eat? Is he going to eat?
Liner.
No, he pushed it along. One pushed it along then, like with his mouth. I actually thought we were going to get... Oh, he's going to block.
Another liner.
Oh, something scared the fish then. One just bolted out the swim.
Right, I had a quite aggressive...
Big
Are they
carp.
coming close
Oh,
to it?
Yeah, they're literally... When you watch this back, you'll pack up fish in. Oh, oh.
Liner.
Yeah, he's right on top of you, that's why. Don't move it, don't move it. Don't move it. Oh. Come on. Got to. Got to. Got to. Yes!
Personally, I don't think the beelining for the pellet, I think I've had 3 or 4 fish swim over this now that have not sort of beelined for it, so I think we'd have got similar results on a normal expander. Not caught one particularly quick where I've gone, oh, look at that. So yeah, I think we give it another go and try and make some sort of conclusion from that.
The good hook bait, it caught a fish. Did it catch it any quicker? If I'm honest, no, but it didn't stop us getting a bite either, so definitely worth a second go. There's a ghost F1 Mike. Oh, something's been interesting to see, you know, if we try a different bait, whether carp in the swim, whether you get the same little bit of spook in, as though they can see the line. I feel like there should be a way. I feel like we're boring them on. I don't mean like as in like to, but like if you saw what I saw, you'd be like, I've got to be able to catch one quicker than this.
I feel like we're fishing the wrong bait, personally.
Yeah, give this, because there's fish activity, give it another minute
You know when someone's fishing down the edge, I'm purposely going to drop my pole here. If someone's fishing down the edge and the pole drops off the ring and it's like, oh, did that spook them?
No.
No.
No, what?
They're not bothered by like, oh, gets you a bite, doesn't it?
Yeah. Got him.
What are the chances?
Every now and again, you might just lapse in concentration, the pole falls off and you think, oh, spooked me fish. It didn't actually bother him. In fact, it got us a bite. We ended up catching a fish from it. But what was interesting, and something that I always try and stress to people, is skylining. Not so much skylining above the lake, but it's sort of like the vibrations of the ground movement. Every time the cameraman walked 2 or 3 meters down the platform, the fish would noticeably scatter out the peg. Yet I can smack my pole on top of the water and it didn't affect them whatsoever.
I know we've just caught 2, obviously, on the Almond Goo 4mm expander, but for the amount of fish that were there, it caught fish, but I wasn't overly impressed. I'm not saying it did any harm, but I think we can do better.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know loads more about F1s than I do, but I feel like the swim needs a complete change of direction. I don't feel like the bait's right.
I agree.
So, to me, it's screaming maggots. And that's something I've done in the past, converted a pellet swim into maggots. And I feel like we'll get a better reaction. So, pop him in the net.
Yeah.
I think the best way of testing it for sure is to have half hour, have some lunch. And then I think the swim will be cleaned out by then.
Yeah, let
then
them
we
eat
can
the
go in
pellets.
fresh with maggots and see if we get. When there's 5 or 6 fish there, it shouldn't be taking us 3-4 minutes to get a bite.
No.
I think we should be able to catch a fish within 30 seconds, and maggots might just do that.
Now, I feel like it's time to try maggots, little bit more activity because your bait falls a little bit slower. You know, we've got white and red maggots, so we'll see if there's any sort of maggots they're picking up, you know, if they have a preference to picking whites up or reds up, etc. I personally don't think it'll make a difference, but, you know, let's see what happens.
I'm just going to start like we did before, like a little bit of bait, build the swim up. So probably half a medium guru to start with, open top lid so I can just dump them in one spot.
You're not going to trickle.
I'm not going to trickle them, just because they take so long to get down compared to pellets.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to forget what's underwater and fish how I would fish, so probably going to put like 20 odd maggots in the pot to start with. If this holds 50, I'm going to half fill it, probably 20-25 maggots. So I'm hoping as the session progresses we can feed a little bit more. So half a guru pot,
Dunk it.
dunk it so it don't fall out. Might get a few roach to start with, that's what I typically expect, and then hopefully we're fishing the right bait now and they'll start responding different, because like from what you're saying,
Just seems to take us too long to catch a fish,
yeah, from what you're saying,
which is fine if you don't know what's down there, but when you can see, I'm expecting obviously, let me know when you reckon these hook baits are going to come into shot.
So I'm going to, what I'd normally do as well is hold my rig back like this, so just see how this settles over my bait. I would like hold my rig.
When do you think it's going to come in?
I can still see my floats tilted, so I reckon it's coming in about now.
I'm not seeing anything yet.
I'm just going to lift it so you can see it.
Oh,
there.
the shot. Yes, got it.
Right.
Is that you like moving the float then?
No.
No. What maggots are what? I think because you've obviously hooked them, they're really, really lively.
Yeah.
Maggots are coming into shot now.
We've seen that on the short pole line as well, though, didn't we? Like when you've hooked them, they wiggle like mad.
Yeah.
I think that extra movement's probably good though.
Good in one way, but when we filmed Underwater 2 at Ferry, they didn't, because we were feeding deads, I think they didn't like movement. I'm not sure they like the movement.
No, the bream, I'd probably say, not as confident with the lives. Interesting.
I can't see anything at the minute.
What, because of a fish?
Because of fish, there's a fish
You have a
directly in
little
front of
liner.
the screen. I can't see your hook.
There we go. See, that just felt so much easier to catch it. I'm not saying this is in the mouth though. It looked a perfectly clean bite, but the way it
Couldn't
shot
really
out the
tell
head-
because I didn't know where the hook bait had come in. Looking back, we returned after lunch, pellets had all been cleaned out, totally blank canvas, not loads of bait on the bottom. F1 comes in, eats the hook bait. I don't think that's a coincidence. A, that obviously like the maggots, but B, a lot less choice on the bottom. No build up of bait, much cleaner, more positive response in the mouth.
Yeah. Would you say that's slightly bigger as well?
I'd say it's better stamp. Well, we've had a bit of a mixture, but
Yeah.
maybe you can't tell on the first fish. But that's a proper Western F1.
It's nudging £3, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything just felt easier.
Yeah.
Like with pellets, it's like you're going, they're there.
I tell you what's really interesting now as well. Realistically, I can hardly see a handful of maggots left on the bottom.
Well, I didn't feed loads. I would say I'm going to do the same again, so half a pot full. But I would like to feed, in this depth of water, I'd like to feed a full pot normally.
So when it comes to feeding maggots, I have a little bit of a set rule. If I'm fishing in sort of like less than 3 foot, I may use a sprinkle pot and tap in like 6 to 10 maggots in the real depths of winter. But generally speaking, I'm putting a certain amount in a pot and just dropping them in. So for this, I like to fish the open rim pot so it releases my maggots nice and quickly. On this particular occasion, I'm fishing in like 4 to 5 foot of water. I always find about 20 odd maggots, 30 maggots max is about right. If I start going into 5 and 6 foot of water, I generally find I need to feed a little bit more, so therefore I might fill, say, a medium guru right to the top. If I'm fishing in 7, 8 foot water, sometimes I'll go even higher and I'll fish like a large guru. Even when it's cold, you can be quite positive with maggots. So my general rule is, the shallower it is, the less you feed, the deeper it is, the more you feed. It's no good tapping 10 maggots in 7, 8 foot of water. They're not going to get to the bottom, and by the time they do, it's not going to be very visual.
Beautiful. 2 reds.
2 double red, yeah.
I can see your bottom shot in shot. The loose maggots are just coming into view now. They all sink, obviously, dead side on. No fish on screen, so when you did that, so doubt it's going to take long. But your hook bait's in a better position now, so as long as a fish doesn't block the screen, I should have a much better view. A fish just swam along the top then.
What's the penguin's favourite dog?
I don't care.
Bichon Frise.
Oh dear. It's been a long day. Andy's now trying to crack jokes to hide up his dismal display on camera. I actually think he's completely losing the plot here. Come on, here we go. Here we go. Come on. That fish there, like approached your maggots and then just reversed as though he knew. He's going to have another go though. He's going to have another go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got him.
How long had that been on? Because that
Not
like
long.
developed.
Not
No?
long.
Not that long?
No, but it was his second.
would've-
It's like he approached them, or he or she, knew there was something not quite right, but then went again.
I would have said like, that's been on for 2 or 3 seconds,
No.
because he had a little indication.
No,
Then
but he was sat.
second,
The F1 was sat right by your hook bait.
For me, I just find fishing with maggots, the fish are just so much more confident. Looking back at these clips, I can see they're just sat there, they're just eating them, sitting off the bottom a couple of inches, chewing on them, going back down for some more. And that particular time, I just had a lovely clean bite. The float's just gone straight under, and a little liner to start with, which I felt the fish had maybe picked the hook bait up, but that was exactly what I'm looking for, where it sucked the bait in, and within a second, I've got that fast positive bite, and I've struck, and I'm into the fish. That was perfect for me, which tells me the mechanics of my rig are right as well, and the fish are loving the maggots.
Scale down first and leave the shots where they are.
yeah. I'll scale down first, and then
What I'd say is, not many fish are. Well, the fish aren't approaching the bait and ejecting it.
no. So it's making me think this is not going to make the slightest bit of difference. I'm
No,
going.
because they're not there. If you know what I mean.
No. But I wouldn't know that if I was fishing.
Look, we've been sat here now and we've been fishing. If there was no cameras here today, one thing I want to get across to you is that I'd be absolutely made up with what I'm catching. But when you're seeing fish in your peg, you feel like, oh, we could catch a little bit quicker, like these fish are avoiding it. I think this happens day in, day out to us. I think if you could see what was underwater in your peg, a lot of the time, you probably would pack up fishing. But scaling down now, do I think it'll make a difference? Maybe not, but that's what this is all about. Let's try it. Let's see if it makes a difference. Let's move up a few shots about. We're here to experiment and try and prove things to you, or prove things that we're doing are right. If I was sat here with no cameras, I'd be happy with what I'm catching today. The water's cold, the water's clear, we're in February, and it's time of the year where
you know, the fish are a little bit pecky and a bit choosy, and you know, they're not 100% on the feed yet.
When they're coming in, there they are. Roaches out. Hey! So, finding down has definitely worked for the silvers. This is why I fish big hooks and heavy line.
So you don't catch them.
Yeah. Great roach, that is.
Oh, what a beauty. Best fish of the day, that, isn't it? Nailed
That's
2
what we come
maggots.
for.
What about feeding a few micros and maggots together?
Is that something that you know that's something I'd do? But I don't know if it's something you'd do.
Yeah, if I felt like I'd do it if is that a bite?
No, liner.
I'd do it if I went to a venue and ground bait was banned and I felt like, you know, I wanted to put a bit of fish mealy pellet in my peg, but I wanted to fish maggots as well. I don't.
Perch. Got him, yes.
Oh, lovely bite, that. Lovely little perch. I think the only conclusion we can take from fishing a lighter hook and line is we're catching more of these. They definitely don't like a 16s SLWG.
No, you've caught more silvers and there's not been loads there.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the impression that the F1s are mad for... I thought they were going to go mad for maggots.
I did.
But they're not. They were feeding harder on pellets. Maggots gave us that little fast burst of bites, but what's really apparent watching the screen is we're not getting the fish activity anymore. There's more silvers coming in, and I think the reason there's more silvers, there's not many F1s and carp about anymore. So the maggots aren't having the same appeal as pellets. Now, something I do, and I know Andy hates this, is mixing baits. So for me, the logical thing, again, only through seeing what's on the screen, pellets had more attraction, but they were hard to catch. Could we feed pellets and maggots together? So we're combining the two. Will they single out the maggots on the hook then, because they're wriggling, but we've got the pulling power of the pellet?
I'm going to put a few micros in and a few maggots. I'm going to start getting one chuck now. You happy with that?
I'm always happy. Come on, go F1. I feel like the micros are already bringing a few more down.
Yeah.
They're picking up, this F1 is just picking up singles. He might turn now though, he might turn. No. Do you have a liner then?
No.
You flick your hook bait, like
Little bit then.
lifted your hook bait off the bottom.
I did have a little twitch then. I'm not getting hardly any signs on the float lights.
It's definitely, yeah, since putting those micros in, there is 100% more carp, more F1s on the bottom. The only problem is might have the same issue as before. Literally there's like 4 F1s feeding on the bottom now.
Really?
They're literally troughing.
How many fish are there now?
1, 2, 3, 3 with their heads down.
That is unbelievable.
Oh. Do you think it's worth moving the bottom shot?
Try it, mate, because something's like, it's just not, I can't believe
I know I
Thomas.
wouldn't fish with like a high bulk and no droppers.
I'll move both. I'll just fish with a bulk and just
try
take
it.
all the shot away.
Would you ever do that normally?
No, because
No.
I would never think there's that many fish in my
No.
peg and not get a sign.
The micro and maggot experiment has worked, as in there's no doubt now we've got a lot more fish competing on the spot. They're eating the micros and an odd maggot, but we're not converting it into bites. They're avoiding the hook bait. Are they avoiding the hook bait because they see it? Is something wrong? Is it because they can see the shot? Is the line too tight? So getting rid of the droppers, high bulk, again, it's not something I'd do in my fishing, but the situation is in what I can see unfolding in front of me on the screen suggests it's worth a go. Blocking the shot.
Don't know what happened then. It was a
My shot
under.
just got blocked, but
Foul up then.
So straight away, first time of using that rig, the fish is foul upped. So to me, that tells me there's probably not enough stability in that bottom part of the rig, and it's exactly why we use droppers. Maybe smaller droppers, so they're not right in the fish's face, or is it even the droppers? But one thing's for sure, we've got no stability here now. The hook bait can move too freely.
the F1s are back. Where's the hook bait? Is it going to come into shot?
Coming in now, I reckon.
Yeah, it's a scared one. Oh, that one's following it. Is he going to take it? That one might. Yes.
What has he followed that
Followed
down?
it. Well, first one followed it. Second one obviously was off camera, but equally followed it. So the first one stopped. Second one just the movement. That's why lifting and dropping so effective. Movement. It's all about movement. That fish again followed it down. Bennett needs to be lifting and dropping. And if he's not going to listen, I'll have to take over.
He just won't let that lift and drop go, will he?
Really clean, like how they stuck it in is really clean. They're never ever going to eject it.
No. Do you think that's right though, having so much, like no stability in the bottom part?
I think the extra movement then probably caught you that fish.
Yeah, the extra movement caught me that, but maybe having a dropper like here, one dropper,
Yeah.
so I've got a little bit of...
A little bit more stability.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what the other thing, we haven't tried it, and I know, put a single on.
single mag.
Yeah.
With this moving down.
Yeah. I think it's important here to sort of emphasise that it's a one-off opportunity, so we're experimenting far more than possibly we should because we can actually see. So things we wouldn't normally try, changes we wouldn't normally make, we're going through them all just to see, because otherwise we'd never know how the fish react. So could we catch more by just settling down and just letting Andy fish? Yeah, of course we could, but we wouldn't learn as much. This is about learning, and the only way to learn is to constantly keep chopping and changing, ruling things out. I'm bossing this now.
Go on, you tell me.
Feed, only put like maybe 6 or 7 maggots in, and like 20, cut it back a bit, like 30, 40 micros. How many micros have you been putting in?
Probably more than that, yeah. Not much like that.
Yeah, same micros and literally 6 or 7 maggots.
Yeah, so sort of like
I want to starve them on.
wintry style.
Yeah. My theory behind trying to starve them on, so to speak, is give them less choice. There's not a million fish coming in, so if you're not careful, he's building up too much bait on the bottom, which makes them harder to catch. So by restricting the loose offerings, still keeping bait falling through the water, so hopefully you're going to pull some fish, less bait on the bottom, in theory, should find the hook bait a lot quicker. I'll sort this.
You sort this out. It's easy, innit, when you've got a camera in front of you?
What I do.
I'd have been well off this line about 3 hours ago.
When do you reckon the hook bait's going to come in?
Next 5 seconds, probably now.
Not seen it yet.
Lift and dropped it, no?
No, lift. Can't see
Oh, someone's took that. I don't know if I've lifted into that
I
or he's
didn't see
grabbed
it.
it.
That's literally unbelievable. Bennett is that good. He knows where the F1's mouth is and literally lifts the maggot into it. You can't teach that.
Outside the mouth, mate. You're not having that one.
Probably because you were a little bit slow.
Listen, I've given enough away in this video. I'm not going to teach you how to foul hook 'em in top lip.
Fouling these in a match, yeah? What would you now be thinking? Because that's how I feel
My
where
whole
we're at.
peg, I would be thinking, right, maggots ain't right, I need to switch to pellets, feed more bait, and just keep ploughing through it until I started catching them.
We've tried loads of things, ruled a lot of things out. You have to reach your conclusions in the best way forward, and taking Andy's feelings, what I'm seeing on the screen into account, it was pellets. You know, we caught more fish on pellets, expand a pellet on the hook. Best reaction to pellets is in terms of amount of fish in the swim. So it made sense, if we want to catch as many fish as possible, let's go down the pellet route.
Obviously we're here to experiment, but now I feel like going back to pellets, we're just going to kickstart that peg again. The fishing's just going to pick up a bit.
Yeah, you move your shotting pattern back again.
I've gone back to a
Yeah.
Vulcan 2, because I don't feel like
Because
there's
everyone
a lot
watching this is going to think these two have lost the plot. They're chopping and changing like it's going out of fashion. But
This
we're
is-
chopping and changing, reacting to what.
Yeah, see if there's
Obviously-
something we're missing out
Yeah, we should be.
Are we
like,
missing out
You
on
can see
something?
that swim.
Yeah, it's ridiculous now.
Yeah, you should. We should be catching more than that. Hasn't come in yet, is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Got it. Yeah, got it. Right at the back. That's it. Oh, it's gone. Lift it again. Lift. Drop.
Carp.
Come on, come on. Prove me right. Yes. Yes. Lifting and dropping every day of the week.
You see when you lower it into its mouth?
No, literally.
To be fair-
his face was that far from it, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you lifted it, you could just see him turn. He saw it. I'm not saying it works every time because we've proved it doesn't. I'm not saying lifting and dropping works every time, but we're 3 from 3. Just keep lifting and dropping, I think we'll be away now.
3 out of 3,550 attempts is not bad, and you're looking at a screen, so to be honest, you should be doing a bit better than that ringer. Lifting and dropping 8 for me.
£3.5 pound.
£3.5. That seems to be the average size of the bigger F1s.
I think now they're definitely settling a bit. Do you agree?
Good time of day. I feel like, although we took our time, we're getting somewhere. Pellets are definitely the better bait.
Yeah.
They're dropping on them. I think we just have to accept the water's clear and just sort of, as you sort of said, like plough through it a little bit.
So we've gone back to the basics, the old school method of just being accurate, feeding micros, formula expander, and all of a sudden we're starting to put more fish in the net. It's just getting nicer and nicer, and it's just getting them little runs. It's all what winter fishing's about. You're not looking to get one every single chuck. It's just simple fishing, rigs bang on, pots bang on, feeding's nice and accurate, and the fishing's getting easier.
Loads of fish in the swim now, but all behind the bait. Starting to inch their way forward. And that's blocking the shot. Thanks a lot, mate. Shot's complete. Oh. Couldn't tell because probably when we watch it back, you might just be able to see the hook bait before it look clean.
Yeah, look pretty clean.
There's a good chance it is because there was a fish's mouth, but it's just as it's coming out from behind the fish for me. Looking back and obviously being able to see behind that big F1 that was blocking the screen. Lovely clean pickup, mouth closed over the pellets, sucked it in, light expander again, flew up, fish on. Lovely colours.
Yeah, I love the golden brown.
Just doing that thing at the minute, you know where they stay. Oh, you just moved the pellet.
No, I moved that.
Yeah, but it sort of caught this fish's eye a bit and he's dropped down like near it.
Really? I twitched that then.
Yeah.
My back shot just sort of gone the wrong side.
He's like, he's now eating.
Liner.
Yeah, he's eating all round your hook bait. Don't strike if it goes under. Just lift it a tiny bit if you could. Oh, he's turned. And got, that's it. Oh, you've lifted it 500 mile.
4 inch that.
500 mile.
Did that look well low?
Yeah, it did, but obviously it's the angle of the camera. This big common's going to block the shot, I think.
Big common?
Yeah, it's a lovely common, just blocking everything, so I can't actually tell you what's going on now.
Just let me catch him, get him out of the way.
There's one eating near where your hook bait was. Yeah, you got him, yeah. So,
big common?
No, it's a tiny little F1.
What?
See how small it is.
There's a big common there.
Yeah, the big common was blocking
up.
the shot. I think it's the one you foul looked earlier.
You're winding me up, yeah.
No, there's a big common on screen. How you've singled that out, that F1 out, I'll never know.
You get them in quicker, don't you, these small ones?
Oh, beautiful.
Get back in faster.
Beautiful, that is. After that little period of experimentation where we ruled out loads of things, Andy's sort of settled into a rhythm, I think, of how he wants to fish, how he feels the fish are responding, and you can see now he's getting quicker and quicker. He's building his swim, the bites are starting to come faster, and he's really ticking over now.
As daft as it sounds, I know it's a small fish, but
we're ticking now. We're ticking, yeah, we're ticking.
Pellets is definitely better than maggots.
Oh, he's right. He's been right by your pellet for ages. Come on, just suck it. You can't believe. He ate that about half an hour.
I knew he had because you went quiet and I thought he's got this in his mouth.
He ate that about half an hour before you struck.
Another delay on the bite there. Does it matter? I don't personally think it does. Like, they're not spitting the bait out. I think it all depends on how aggressive the fish feeds. If the fish is sucking it off the bottom, I feel like you get that suck of the bait up, and that in turn causes like a nice positive bite, and you see it quickly and it's on. That time the fish were feeding very gently, it's picked my bait up, it's on for like 6 or 7 seconds until it swims off, but they're not rejecting the bait. So for me, I wouldn't change anything in my rig. I don't think it makes a difference. I knew there was something wrong because I could hear Ringer and I see his shoulders go and he's chuckling, and I just thought that's been on for ages.
It's 4 fish in your swim now.
Really? I'm not getting signs of that. I feel like my peg's
Just do-
speeding up.
Just do that top. No, don't.
Little liner.
Don't strike though. Don't strike.
Strike.
No. Just do a tiny lift. Tiny lift.
Oh, you're obsessed with lifting.
Tiny
you.
lift.
Stop it.
That's a 7-mile lift. What I'm trying to get across to Andy is little tiny lift, like half an inch, an inch. He's lifting it like 7-8 inches clear and it's wafting all over the swim.
Going back to lifting and dropping, that tiny little lift that Steve was sort of getting to me to do, I don't feel like it's making any difference. It's not really sort of catching the fish's eye. If I'm ever gonna lift and drop, I want it to lift, fall back past the fish. You know, just lifting it a couple of inches for me is not really doing a great deal.
They're absolutely troughing. No, that's a liner. Bait's gone everywhere.
Kicked it up.
Yeah. They settle, micros settle a bit better than maggots, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where's the pellet? There it is. Good position where you dropped it. I've absolutely smashed this on a feeder. Here we go, here we go. Come on.
That was a tiny,
lovely.
tiny dink.
Lovely fish.
That was like, you know, your little winter dink bite? That was like a perfect
He took
pellet
that.
bite.
That you know your hook bait then, yeah?
Yeah.
It was at the back of the loose feed. So it was like that was the first thing that fish came to when it wanted to eat.
That was the best bite all day. It was just like, don't.
What's becoming more and more apparent is, and maybe something I should have twigged a little bit earlier, hook bait position is so critical. Obviously Andy likes to have his hook bait right in amongst his loose offerings, and I've been trying to help him by watching the camera keep the hook bait in the perfect position. But what's become apparent is the fish is approaching from the back. That fish there was a brilliant illustration. Hook bait's the furthest pellet out into the lake, only just at the back of the loose feed, so nice and close. Fish is coming in from the back. First thing it sees is the hook bait, lovely clean, sucks it in, clean bite, top lip, everything's perfect.
What I've noticed there, that last fish, it's come in, it's sucked the bait in like this far off the bottom, and what that's causing is, as it sucks from here, your bait shoots into its mouth and it's like a pulley on your rig and it pulls your float down quickly. You get that little dink, which is what you're looking for. When the fish are on the bottom and they're sort of hoovering really confidently and slowly, they're picking your bait up, but because they're not sucking it from a distance, you're not getting that stab on your float. So all of a sudden, it takes time for your bites to develop, which is exactly the same with other soft feeding fish like skimmers. You know, you wait for your bite to develop, or you get that big lift from a skimmer where they pick it up and it's already in the mouth. And that's something that I've never noticed in the past because we've never watched underwater like this.
Ghost F1. Yes, I know my fish.
You will do. We just watched it on the camera.
That's it, make sure you net it to the right, yeah?
I'm going to scoop him.
Oh, beautiful.
He is a nice fish. Perfectly top lip.
Top lip, perfect. It was everything was perfect. Came in.
The bite.
Never got to eat a micro because he saw the expander first. If you can put your hook bait again in that same place.
The thing is, when you're fishing, I mean, you can tell me, but I think I'm in the same spot every single time.
You're not.
It's easy for a ringer to say you're not in the same spot. When I'm looking at my marker, I'm picking literally a branch. So from distance, my allowance is sort of like 1 or 2 inch max. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, yeah, that's in the same spot every single time. Yet Steve's telling me I'm not. So that proves like you can't be picking a tree as your marker. You need to pick the tiniest little thing and try and get it super accurate right on that spot. And even then, you're going to be a couple of inches out either side, but the tighter you can be, the quicker and better you'll catch.
Don't move it from there. Leave it there. Do not touch your rig again.
Move it.
No, don't.
You fall for every time.
They're running out of things to eat. They've resorted to pebbles. They've ate all the micros, so now they're eating some stones. Chance. If this one doesn't, definite chance. Coming up now.
A little bit of a lift.
There's
You got it
7
in
of
his
them.
mouth.
Surely one of them's going to eat it.
Did he have that in his mouth for ages?
No, not really.
No?
No.
I had a lift
But
before it went
there was
under.
3 mouths, yeah, converging. It was who's going to get there first. We've seen it on every underwater so far. If you can get multiple fish feeding in a very tight area, your chances of a pickup are pretty much guaranteed. And again, that shows it 3 mouths in what, 3-inch area, hook bait in the middle, guaranteed to get picked up. I think you're going to love watching this back.
I'm not. It's going to do me head in, isn't it? Because I'm going to look and just think, how can there be so many fish in my peg? And until they're competing.
If Danny Fairbass watches this, he'll be like, I think he might take up F1 fishing.
So if you're watching, Danny, and that's what you're thinking, bring it on.
Here we go, here they come. Spanish Armada's on its way. Here we go.
Spanish Armada's on its
They're
way.
coming on mass.
Yeah.
Do you know what else they do? Leave on mass. You have to clear a peg with Andy Bennett. First of all, you get as many F1ers in as you can. Then you just let go of a random strike.
Liners.
Yeah, it's caught around its pec, so don't give a Zorro on it. Move your hook bait miles.
I would strike at that.
Would you have struck?
Yeah, I would have struck at that.
Yeah, no, it got it caught on its pec. It was like lifted it up and
Constantly
moved
like twitching, then it went a bit. I mean, hook bait gone out of shot.
it. No, I can still see it.
I see.
Don't move it. I actually don't like moving it anyway. Oh,
I had to strike at that.
That's
My
cleared
own
it again.
instinct.
This was quite interesting because my float's shooting under and I feel like I'm missing bites now. Why am I missing bites? If the camera weren't there, I wouldn't know the liners. I'd genuinely be striking and thinking, I'm missing bites. These fish are coming in, sucking my hook bait, maybe a change of hook bait or a change of feeding, when in fact there's just a few more fish in your peg running into your line and everyone's a liner.
although I've given Andy a bit of stick throughout this, what's becoming really impressive, so to speak, is he hasn't actually missed, I think he's been blown out once on corn. He hasn't missed a bite, which is testament to his rig, his super LWG hawk, how he's hooking his pellet, his presentation. He's got everything, as much as I begrudgingly have to accept it, he's got everything spot on. You know what I mean? You'd say normally in this situation with F1s, you'd be missing loads of bites. He's not missing any. Here we go, that one spotted that as it fell. He saw that as it fell. Go on. Yes! Little bit of movement, like a lift and drop that was.
No, just good positioning. I'm not buying into your lifting and dropping.
That was the perfect bite.
Well, I think that's pretty conclusive that feeding a little bit more, clumping it just settles them down. You need to be patient.
Yeah, and I actually think the screen makes you less patient
Yeah.
because you can see what's going on. You think you should get a quicker bite. But now we've settled, we both got it wrong on maggots, not just me.
Yeah, maggots definitely weren't as good
No,
as we thought, was it?
clumping those pellets in the pot, being mega accurate, putting your expander on, and almost just waiting. When you work it out, you don't need to catch one every 30 seconds.
No, I think like
And it's made us think we need to catch quicker than we do, because what we can see.
I think that's what'll blow people's minds is, Jesus Christ, like how you're not getting a bite.
Yeah.
But if I couldn't see underwater, I would have just felt my day progress, and I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but obviously that's telling you different. There's
Yes.
so many more fish in your peg than what you think there is.
But I feel like we've strived for perfection when perfection's not always possible.
No,
Beautiful fish.
lovely fish. Ghost mirrors, nice and chunky fish. Probably 2 pound in weight, probably what the average of what you're getting.
Would be nice now though to finish with a carp.
Yeah.
So I reckon we haven't really big potted it. Big pot. You know what? You know
You've
what I
seen
want.
a lot of carp, have you?
Well, I've seen you spooking them. I reckon big pot, micros and corn.
Yeah. Be interested to see
And
what
just see if we
happens,
can
won't
finish with, because there's loads of big carp in this lake.
Yeah.
And there has been odd ones visiting, I'll be honest, there's not been loads, but we've not dump
not put-
potted it.
we've not put a
So let's be
volume in.
aggressive. It'll either,
Well, I'll let you choose. What would you?
if it was me, I'd go micros and corn.
Yeah, but how many? Like that much corn?
Yeah. Let's feed it proper.
And 100 millimicros? Or full pot?
That'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I don't like to talk about it, I did actually beat Bennett on this particular lake, the clay pit.
I knew he couldn't come here without bringing that up.
Being really aggressive. I know it was a different time of year, but we haven't tried feeding loads of bait. So I think it's the right time of day, as in it's getting late. We want a big carp to finish. Let's big pot it, be aggressive, and to see if we can finish with the icing on the cake, so to speak. It's the right time of day to catch a carp, even though it's cold. What are you doing now?
I'm going to put another bit on. That one fell off.
You said you were picky about your corn, didn't you?
Yeah.
First F1's coming in. You watch, we'll get a great big F1 every shot now.
It'd be interesting to see how they come back to it, because I've always felt like a volume of bait puts F1s off.
They're on it now.
But does it put them off, or does it
Make them harder to catch.
just make them so
Yeah.
hard to catch because there's so much bait there?
There's only one there, to be fair, and he's absolutely troughing.
It'd be nice if we could finish with a carp.
It would. If you can catch a carp off the screen at the minute, you'll be a magician. Where's the corn?
Somewhere.
There it is. It's just scared him. Landed like on top of him. Oh, it's gone in. Oh, yeah, the one right next to your grain. That fish followed that grain of corn in, yeah? There was two, and it ate the one next to your hook bait. Fish just coming in now. That's a mirror carp. Oh, no, don't strike. Don't strike.
Oh, it's hard not to strike.
Yeah, but it was caught in your line. It's gone behind it. Just reset it.
What, it's gone under the camera?
Oh, run it, leave it. Oh, drop down mirror. Don't strike. How that mirror never ate that then, I'll never know.
I had a feeling that it might happen. More bait, a few more bigger fish coming in. This time of year though, I thought like it might be a little bit too much bait, but it just shows if they're in the area, volume of bait, feeding a little bit more will bring in them bigger fish.
But I think volume of bait is massive, like in terms of you can tap bits in all day, you'll never draw them carp
Here
in.
comes your cut. Oh,
What is
the
he?
carp sucked it in and blew it out.
Never.
Yeah, on the drop.
I've never seen a sign
No,
on the rig.
you know, but your corner hadn't got to the bottom. A big common come in from the right, sucked it in and blew it out instantly. I think the thing that stands out for me the most about Andy's fishing is his attention to detail in terms of accuracy. He's literally obsessed with being 100% accurate. And his hook bait is exactly on top of his little pile of pellets. Everything's really tight. He's laying that little trap. He's got his marker. His pole pot's in the right position. He leans forward. He's almost over the OCD, over the top, is in that hook bait placement. And I think that's really impressive and obviously catches him an awful lot of fish, both carp and F1s. And if I just add, if he learns to lift and drop, he'll literally win everything.
Oh, what a bite.
One thing I'll take away from this is that it's nothing massively that changes your fishing. It's all the tiny little percentages, just stacking the odds in your favour that can get you that one or two extra fish. And in my career personally, up to now, I've been very fortunate enough to win 3 big money finals. They've all been worth sort of 50 grand a piece. So there's £150,000 there that have come within a 1 or 2 fish swing. If I hadn't have just caught that one extra fish, all of a sudden, like, I could win nothing. And it's all about the little percentages. How do I catch that one extra fish?
£5, £6?
Yeah,
Maybe 6.
I think, yeah, £6.
Lovely fish to finish.
I actually think, although it's been frustrating, you know, when you get to watch it back, you'll learn stacks.
You need to stack your odds in your favour. The more regular you feed, the more fish you're drawing into your peg. Have I got the right hook on? Have I got the right hook bait on? Like, you've got to look at all these little things.
Hook bait placement is massive, and what I've took away is, if it's a little bit hard, but you think there's a few fish in your swim, if you can just position your hook bait maybe 3 to 6 inches off the back of those loose off rins, you might find yourself catching a lot more fish.
You've seen it for yourself now. There's literally always fish in your peg. Don't be scared, tweak things, and you can improve your fishing, and it's always a chance of making it happen.